measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If Earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken. We just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat Earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Sven P, Curved Fart, Pablo de la Cruz, Level Plain Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, Survive the Spin, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Tiers Morgan, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, the name's Burley, J Males 24, Unimento, Iron 26, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Troy Shuker, Bob Barker, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Young Cat, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links, as I say, to Patreon are below this video. But with that, I will hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Hey Neil, hey Discord.
How are you?
All right.
Morning, Nathan.
Morning. Yeah, I'm all right. It is all good.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh. You up for Friday? I'm going to get in now because it's Tuesday.
I don't see why not.
Germany got robbed yesterday. Click OK.
I'm glad you talked about football. It just keeps the show so timeless.
I'm talking about football. I could be talking about politics.
That's also less than timeless.
Politics. Football's politics.
No, don't stand on ceremony. Feel free. Makes me cringe when it plays back in about 10 days' time.
Yeah, well, get out of the way in the pre-show. I'm starting to think all these games might be staged.
Oh, here we go. You're trying to set Steve off.
No, I'm just, watching
A man is
something.
entitled to believe whatever he wants.
I'm saying I just
Isn't it?
noticed some things. That's all. I've said it in the past. I've noticed some things.
Just to me, life is a wake-up call on what happened. It's no big deal. I think it's beautiful myself. I was told about it, and then it's kind of on every piece of life that you play with, right? It's just the way it is. It's a manipulation. No big deal. But you do have to challenge.
I challenged that the freaking NFL scripted from the beginning of the season on.
Well, that's up to you, whatever.
I've noticed some
thing I
things
see.
during games.
You've changed your tune in 24 hours.
I didn't change my tune. I said you can buy a few people, but you can't script the whole freaking season. I noticed a few things, but that's not you can't prove to me that the whole season's scripted. Now, in-game stuff, Yeah, you see it all the time. You hear it in Goodfellas when he said, did you hear about the points we were shaving right before Tommy DeSimone stabs Maury?
Yeah, these guys
Things are
never lose.
proven.
Okay. And I said yesterday, I don't disapprove of people who become auto hoaxers. Like, it's a bit extreme, but by the same token, you're like, yeah, there's a lot of bullshit. People manipulate stuff behind the scenes. Therefore, to trust that somebody who's giving you a report has got the whole story is utterly absurd, which makes the whole thing utterly absurd.
We live in a world that started out with a manipulation.
Yeah. A fool and his money are soon separated.
What's that got to do with anything? What are you trying to
What's
say?
that got to do with it? It had to do with you being a fool. What are you talking about? I mean, we're coming out here in this world where you got answers. I'll take them if you got them.
Everyone has
Danny
the same
Faulkner
moans.
has all the answers.
I don't know. Everyone
Who
seems
does?
to have the same moans. So yesterday we were covering that Pearl chick, and she's talking about how it's not translatable in terms of money output when you've got a load of subscribers from shorts videos. In other words, I'm not making enough money. You're like, okay, I mean, I can relate. But on the other hand, you've got 2 million subscribers. You know what I mean? Your videos are never going to do that badly that you can sort of appeal to what a struggle it is. Especially when it's just you. You know what I mean? This is a family of 4, and what with 1/100th of the subscription base, or probably whatever it is, 2 million versus 26,000. You don't know you're born, love, but you're moaning about it. But then you think, well, how is that any different to me moaning about the limited income when there's people out there that aren't capable of getting monetized at all because their channel just doesn't render any views, or that just the subject they're covering just doesn't have the interest in it to generate enough views to monetize the channel at all. So like everyone's got the same woes. I noticed it back when I was a rep. So I remember going to this guy, I'm sure I've told this story before, but going to this guy's house, and he's got a Lamborghini on the driveway, and he's got a brand new limousine version of an Audi. It's just badged A8, but it wasn't, because it had a freaking W12 engine in it. So it says on the back of it, A8 W12. You're like, holy shit, has that got the Rolls-Royce, not the Rolls-Royce, the Bentley engine in it, or whatever, right? And he's like, yeah. Well, what's it like to drive? And he's like, I don't have a driving license. I'm like, but you've got a Lambo and a W12 A8 on the drive. He's like, yeah, I don't have a driving license. But then he starts moaning about how much perception. This is not the exact same story, like a different time with the same customer. He's moaning, saying, everyone thinks you're really rich and they don't realise that you've got all these finances for the yacht and the finances for the Lambo and the finances for this and nobody realises I'm just as broke as they are at the end of each month.
Poor guy.
But my point, well, yeah, but that's true right down the line when you make it a comparative thing. When you compare me to a guy with 1,000 subs that's desperate to get monetized and just can't, and it just isn't generating the interest to have YouTube go, yeah, right, we'll let you be monetized. That guy is like looking at me when I go, oh, I've only got my PayPals and my Patreons and my limited ad revenue from 2 different channels that do actually generate an ad revenue. It's like, who are you? You don't know you're born, mate. It's like, it's a struggle for me. I can't even get monetized. And me looking up the line, going to Pearl, how dare you moan when you've got 2 million subs? And when she looks at the line and goes, how dare you moan that you've got a lease on the yacht? You know what I mean? And so it continues. Now, when you get to the very top, I remember seeing this documentary about the guy who ran Johnson & Johnson, right? It's like a pharmaceutical type outfit. And he's constantly concerned about all the parasitical cousins and sons and daughters and granddaughters and grandsons and, all these parasitical family members who are all constantly trying to take his wealth away from him and have these expectations that he's got to keep in check. And there's this constant fear of losing it all. And you're like, oh my God, even when you're at the absolute echelons of wealth, you've still got this concern that you might lose it all in the next day, and you've got to keep working till you die because, you know, all the parasitical family members will erode it immediately if you don't build up even more, or whatever. You know, there's this constant concern. So at some point you go, regardless of whether or not I could do with more money, yes, I absolutely could. Yes, I'm pretty poor, but it could be a damn sight worse. So then you go, well, what do I have? Loving family, loving wife, and a roof over my head, electricity, fridge that works. You know what I mean? Hot and cold running electric everything, a coffee machine. I've got loads of luxuries when I actually stand back. Now, would it be nice to be able to buy a new car when we've got one that's 25 years old? Yes. Would it be nice to pay off the couple of mortgages? Yes. Would it be nice to move into a house with a garden? Yes. But there's people who are absolutely poverty stricken that have got more kids, less money. You know, there's always somebody worse off than you. There's always someone better off than you. So just take solace in the fact that life is generally pretty good. Like, I would say, even at the various stages when I was earning a shit ton of money, I still had the exact same worries. I had the same mortgage. You know what I mean? So it was newer and perceived to be bigger at the time, but it didn't, you know, life hasn't changed much. And you go, well, what has changed? Well, I've got a couple of really adorable kids and an adorable wife. Well, that means I'm up, right? Because I've still got the same coffee machine. I've still got the same mortgage. You know what I mean? So you go, well, was it better when you were earning loads of money, flying all over the place in a rep? I'm like, well, no, I had no time. I was always sat on some horrible fart box plane with a load of other people. And it wasn't that much fun. It could be portrayed or spun to be amazing on Facebook. But spinning myself into sounding like James Bond and flashing the cash didn't actually make me be in any more happier position. And while I was doing it, like I say, I'd meet people like the guy with the W12A8 who didn't have a driving license and listen to him moan. And, you know, you can go up another level. Like Arky, what's his... Al McPherson's husband, when they were falling out, I remember going around and fixing their hi-fi and listening to them arguing, you know, just yelling at each other in this really beautiful house in the middle of London with no frickin' parking and getting a parking fine that matched the tip he gave me. Anyway, he had what's the guy's name that did the skull in diamonds? I can't remember the guy's name, but some famous artist. He had one of his splatter paintings on the wall, and I instantly recognised it as an original painting because the guy that was doing them, Hirst, I think his name, Damien Hirst, was operating out of a studio that was down the road from the girl I was seeing in this very quaint British town in the West. And I'd seen them walking around making this shit that he was selling for fucking millions of pounds. And they had this artwork hanging on the wall and this beautiful hi-fi that had been bought from the company that I work for that cost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds. And I was just there fixing some problem because the decorator had unplugged it or, you know, plugged it back in incorrectly. And all I'm sitting there listening to is this blazing row between a man and a wife that hate each other. The fact that she's a freaking supermodel and he's an absolute bazillionaire didn't mean anything. They're still rowing with each other while the kids listen. You know what I mean? It didn't matter. They had a Damien Hirst on the wall and $100,000 hi-fi in the lounge and a 3-story townhouse that was detached in the middle of London. You know, it didn't matter. They were still freaking miserable. So you're like, well, even when you get to this level and you've got a supermodel for a wife, you can still be in a position where you're clearly miserable as shit. You know, all the money in the world don't make no difference. So you've got to take, at some point, you've got to stop and take stock and go, I'm only here for a limited amount of time. I might as well enjoy this, whatever this is, and wherever I'm at with whatever money I've got. Just enjoy it anyway. Because otherwise you're just a miserable sod with no money, rather than just a happy-go-lucky sod with no money. But everyone feels the same, right?
Yeah, I noticed that when I went on a mission trip to Mexico. I realized that one man's dump is another man's freaking castle. Like, you take where I live, and my wife's like, we don't have this, we don't have that. Okay, what about those freaking mud huts we were in freaking Mexico? You know, bring one of them over here, and they'll think you are a freaking millionaire.
Even the people with loads of money in the Japanese houses had tiny little apartments. and it'd be in there going, my God, this is a shoebox. Stuff piled everywhere. It's not that there's a massive amount of stuff. It's just there's so little space to put it that it's piled high absolutely everywhere. Every inch is accounted for. And then in the middle of this tiny little space, there's this 100 grand hi-fi. You're like, man, this is totally unnecessary and seemingly implausible to even be in here. What's going on? And it's just like, well, that's just their lot in life. They have smaller spaces to live in than even us Brits. You're like, oh, okay. And nobody's moaning about it. That's how they deal with it. So me in this apartment, which when I was single was huge. It felt like it was a very big apartment for one person to live in. Now that there's 4 people living in it, I hate it. It's too small. We need a house. But if we never got one, you're like, well, did you spend the entire time while your kids were growing up miserable because you didn't have a house? And if you look back and go, yeah, I did, yeah, I was constantly moaning about it. You're like, well, then you didn't enjoy that bit of your life very much. You should have just enjoyed the kids growing up. Forget about the fact that your space was small and you didn't have a garden. So what? You had enough money to go out to the park, which was completely free. Did you? Oh, you didn't, you miserable sod. Well, then you didn't live well. So just live well.
Yeah, but the eye is never going to be. How does it go? The eye is never full enough seeing and the ear hearing. So you're always going to want more, no matter what. It's just the
Yeah,
way
I
it
mean,
is.
I get it. Having aspirations and feeling hard done by when you're particularly poor, I can totally empathise, right? If you haven't got enough and you need a bit more, everybody wants a bit more. The best scene in Simpsons ever, the best line delivered in the entire series, was a scene where Smithers and Monty Burns walk into his vault, and there's this enormous pile of gold, jewellery, riches, and he says, Burns that is, says, Smithers, I'd trade it all for a little bit more.
I thought you were going to talk about how you sleep on a bed of money.
No, that's
another quote from The Simpsons.
That's the cross between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone. I forgot what he called McBain or something like that. How do you sleep, McBain, when he's done something evil? On a giant bed of money. It's like quoting off how much he gets paid for like 20 minutes in a movie. It's like, they paid me 20 million for this. How do you live with yourself? How do you sleep at night? On a giant bed of money.
Must be a comfortable mattress.
Well, they made a cotton, eh?
That's where Rocky Marciano used to keep his money because he did not believe in banks. He kept all his money in a mattress.
I see. Sounds horrendous. Make you a lumpy mattress, right? Make your mattress lumpy.
I'm sure he had it designed where it was all in a box in the center of a whatever he had. That's where he kept his money. He was anti-fiat banking system, if you want to be technical.
Fair enough.
Sleeping on a bed of gold or Bitcoin, which is the alternative.
Yeah, we need a digital Scrooge McDuck swimming in a vault of Bitcoin.
Morning, everybody.
Hello.
I was just going to say,
Hello.
if we really want to veto the show, we can get into a nice 2-hour discussion about banking.
Oh, yeah. So you're talking about in worldwide debate that time, right? Banking and birth certificates and, oh, my goodness. Uh-oh, here comes the demon. He says Earth's measured flat. Demon!
Yeah, they call me a demon. It's, who was that? I can't remember who it was.
Dawn.
Dawn.
He's still butthurt from all those years ago. They all came through Flat Earth debate, Nathan. You know that.
I mean, I understand that people feel very butthurt. I mean, YouTube feel very butthurt about me, it would seem. So I got a message from one of my members, not a subscriber, a member, saying, I've been unsubscribed from your channel. I watch loads of your... It's Cannabear, right? A guy who watches regularly, leaves super chats, you name it. He's a regular. As regular as you can be. Unsubscribed from the channel. You're like, sons of bitches. That's what YouTube have been doing. Just unsubscribing people from my channel.
Wow.
And eventually it's somebody who notices more easily and happens to mention it to me because they're a regular. Like, oh, by the way, there's stats that show me the most watched channels. This would be one of them. I'm not even on the list because I'm not even subscribed. Yeah, you're a freaking member. Like, what? Seriously? I mean, whenever I get an example of it, it always kind of makes me recoil. I mean, I do accept it, and the sting doesn't last very long, but it's just such a consistent thing over the last 10 years. You make a bit of progress in terms of the discussion. That is to say, you brush up your skill in terms of your debating ability in this particular subject arena. And as your skill increases, the level of censorship increases alongside it. You're like, my God. So to counteract that, you put yourself into a position where you want to show growth in the channel, so you put even more work in, producing more material, and that just goes up and up and up as the level of censorship brings it back down again. So you're on this constant battle where you're only increasing by this tiny amount by putting this huge amount of effort in to your job, this channel, right? My career for the last 10 years. So you go, well, given that I've made it my career for the last 10 years, you would hope that it would be increasing with the amount of effort that I'm currently putting in. And it isn't. You see it stagnating. And you go, what is it? Am I not making... Is 10 shorts videos a day not enough? Is it not enough to be broadcasting a couple of long-form videos and an edited video and having a separate channel? No, it's all not enough, because then your actual audience, the people who could potentially be getting it, tell you, I've been unsubscribed from your channel. You just think, that's scummy. You know, on the part of YouTube, like, you're actually unsubscribing people. Paying members are getting unsubscribed from my channel. That's beyond the pale as far as I'm concerned. When you sat on the platform doing the amount of work that you're doing, you're like, well, they don't give a tiniest of shit about me as an individual. Nobody does. There's obviously, notwithstanding the fact that I get a lot of support from people who are dedicated to what I do, but in terms of the plight and the algorithmic advantage that's been not just not offered, like the suppression is off the chain, man. It's just outrageous. That shouldn't happen. But there we go. It's been an occurrence for the last 10 years. People telling me exactly the same thing. Oh yeah, I've been unsubscribed. Oh right. Is there any wonder that it's single digits on a channel with 25,000 subscribers when the people who actually do want to watch your material and support you financially get unsubscribed? So you're like, what are you going to do? Just leave the dead accounts and unsubscribe to people who actually want to watch? Well, yeah, that's how you get the numbers to be so skewed. You just fuck with them and fuck with the person that's working to try and put a crust on the table. That's me. It is heartbreaking, I've got to be honest, as much as I try and play it down.
I don't trust the numbers. The other day on your Uncut and After show, it was reading that there was one person in the chat when there was about 10 people in there. Probably more.
Yeah, I've seen that too. So if you've got a perception that hardly anybody's watching, if you just dip in and go, oh, there's only a couple of people watching, there'll be no one to talk to, then you won't chat. And if there's literally, I've seen it where it's read as having no people there and there's you and me chatting, or there's at least half a dozen people chatting, which tends to suggest that there's at least 10 or 15 people watching, and it'll read out as there being 1 or 2 people in there. You're like, this is just bullshit. You know, you're underplaying the numbers even when they're freaking low anyway, because you've literally removed people from the subscription base that are dedicated subscribers. You know, it is really scummy on the part of YouTube as far as I'm concerned. Now, maybe it's, well, we need to only offer the favoured content of Simon Dan talking about our Earth's spherical based on his flat Earth measurements. We're going to promote that. Like, yeah, well, it started off with you promoting other people when you search for the subject that I'm a specialist in, and it's gone beyond that now to, no, we must suppress this person heavily. Not subtly either. Heartbreaking. The only saving grace, and I keep saying this, is the fact that there's people who support me financially in spite of that. So, in spite of me seeing the minuscule amount of growth, despite me putting as much effort as feasibly possible in every waking moment dedicated to a YouTube career, you go, well, it isn't generating an output that's consistent with the increase in work, but people will still support me financially via PayPal and Patreon and the Ko-Fi link and things of that nature. Now, I'm not even going to include members on the list. You go, why would I promote something that YouTube are literally actively unsubscribing members who've paid from the channel? You're like, why would I promote that when that's the scumbags of YouTube making it as hard as humanly possible and a bit harder for me to survive here? It's just unreasonable. Do you not think? Like I say, notwithstanding the saving grace of the people who support me in a community I've built over those 10 years, it is proper scummy.
Yep.
What are you going to do? I'm that guy moaning about the Lamborghini on the driveway.
On to the next show. That's what we're going to do, right? Let's do another show.
Like I say, there are people out there who've got 1,000 subs. I saw one the other day, guy with an art channel, saying, when will I become monetized? I've been doing this for 4 years and I'm still not in a position to be monetized. And you're like, yeah, but you're making videos about boring artwork that you're making. That's life. Meanwhile, this subject gets a huge amount of people directed to it. Now, that might have gone down over the years, but none of them are directed towards me, and I'm a subject matter expert in it. It's like this guy was not Van Gogh. But if Van Gogh was on the platform going, I don't get it, you'd be like, yeah, I feel for you, mate. You're the creme de la creme when it comes to artistic expression, and yet YouTube have decided that they're not only going to make sure that everyone's directed to this other asshole painting by fucking numbers, because they've decided that's the preferred content. We prefer people watch people paint by numbers. You're like, wankers. What else are you going to do? Well, we're also going to suppress Van Gogh. Why? Well,
It doesn't help when you got the history of videos like the history of Flat Earth coming out. Oh, boy.
That video is there to perpetuate what Flat Earth should be. And I said this yesterday while we were watching it. When I was covering, even if it was my annoyance with Mandela effect or my annoyance with clone centers or my annoyance with whatever insert conspiracy here that annoyed me because I wanted the subject that I had decided to specialize in, that's Flat Earth, to be taken seriously. And to me, while I'm being told that Flat Earth's muddying the frickin' waters of 9/11 truth, I simultaneously saw it that way when Mandela effect is muddying the waters of Flat Earth truth. That was the way I saw it. But my frustration is just the same as my endorsement for those sorts of conspiratard subjects. It makes no difference if I'm moaning about it. It's still being talked about. And when those were the days, I was being offered out. If you typed in a search for Flat Earth, I'd be there if I'd made a video like you'd expect. But as a complete novice, now, 10 years down the line as an expert, the chances of finding me as a member of the public are zero. Like I say, my own subscription base is being unsubscribed from me, and I'm not having the videos that are being produced at great expense in terms of the time dedicated to them put under the nose of even the people who are subscribed, if they're not just a list of dead subscribers, now that everybody who's actually interested has been unsubscribed surreptitiously by YouTube, in spite of them, in some instances, being frickin' members of the channel. It just boggles your mind, and it does piss me off.
Well, I wonder, I didn't even know who the hell you were at that time until David Weiss mentioned you. I was like, Nathan Oakley, who the hell is that? And that was about 2016, 2017. So, who knows?
Yeah. Fortunately, there are people in my general vicinity who hear my calls for support financially, and then they rise to the call to action and offer me financial support directly, rather than me relying on the numbers generating a decent supply of cash from YouTube. Now that, given the amount of work being put into YouTube, literally thousands of videos, dozens per week, you're like, you'd expect a little bit more. But like I say, there's millions of YouTubers out there. YouTube themselves aren't interested in me because they want me to survive. They're interested in suppressing what I have to say. That's their motivation. So like, they can't push the line where they just get rid of me, because then I become a martyr. But they can suppress the absolute living dog shit out of me instead. Hopefully that'll be altered soon enough when I go out on the tour de book. Then I'm forcing myself down people's throats when I'm on other people's platforms, if they'll have me. But we shall see.
Any day now, right?
Yeah, I check my email each morning expecting to see a completed version of the book ready to be published. So I'll let you know, Neil. It'll be, I don't know, next couple of days I'll be dropping a line in Master B going, yeah, it's done. It's going to get published tomorrow. Or it's done, it'll be published on Monday. You know what I mean? It'll be that sort of sentiment.
Can't wait for that, Nathan. Really looking forward to the book.
Yeah, me too. I hope it generates a decently consistent stream of revenue. If I go out and consistently promote it, I don't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah, I think so too. You get on the right channels, I think it will, for sure.
Yeah, I hope so. I haven't heard anything from the people who are offered their services to translate, so I can only assume that they're being offered because they were hoping to generate some business from it, as opposed to sincerely wanting to translate for free. I've not heard anything back from any of them. So it might not be the case that ends up getting translated into different languages. But I know it will definitely turn into an audiobook relatively quickly.
They were ready. It just keeps getting delayed. So I haven't heard from Ventriloquorum. He pops in every now and then. So the last word was, as soon as it's ready, you'll be contacted.
Oh, okay.
So
in other words,
they're basically waiting on you.
I see. So what they're saying is, once you say, yeah, it's done now, it's going to be published in English in ebook format Monday, then I'll be getting an email from Ventriloquorum or whoever saying, right, can I have a copy so I can translate it then?
Yes.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That's what the publisher said, because I was like, should I send this off now before it's fully complete to the translators? It's like, no. Make sure it's absolutely 100% complete before you send it off to any translators. You don't want them making any edits after the fact if they're going to the effort of translating it, especially if they're doing it for nothing. And if you were, if you're paying £1,000 to have it translated for the sake of argument, which is the ballpark figure he gave me when he'd had translations done on his books that he publishes currently, it's like, if I made edits to it, they'd just charge me again. Like, you don't want that. So if somebody's offering their services, make sure they get it in the finished format. I'm like, fine. So like you say, it makes sense that they're not hitting me up going, yeah, I'm ready, because they just want to hit me up and go, give it me then. I'll do it when I get a chance. The reason I wanted emails from them is so that when that happens, I can proactively on that day contact them via email and go, here's a copy, or here's a code to download it. But hopefully they'll proactively contact me once it's out, and they'll be like, oh, brilliant, I've just read it, it's really good, I want to translate it. We shall see.
The last message I got from Mental Corn was, "Hey Neil, hope you're well. I've been a bit MIA over the last month or so, working some other stuff, but I get a few hours a weekend. What's the word on the book? Still getting copies out? Question mark. I'll try to get in on a show one or two shows next week." It's basically saying he's busy,
Now, okay,
but as
that's
soon
cool.
as it's ready, he'll
No,
roll.
he's in touch though, which is good.
How are you?
Good afternoon.
Hello.
How do?
How are you?
I'm a little bit upset, as I was explaining just before we went live. So I had a message from one of my members called Cannabear, who explained that he gets statistics of how long he's watched specific channels that he's subscribed to. And when knowing that he's a member of mine, he didn't see that I was on the list. He looked into his subscription base to find he wasn't subscribed to me anymore. So he felt the need to literally point this out in a comment that he'd been unsubscribed as a member from the channel. And you're like, that's beyond the pale. That's really scummy. You know, the amount of effort and time I put into editing mid-form videos, that's 8 minute plus, short-form videos, that's shorts, 3 minutes minus, and long-form, long live videos, that's an hour to an hour and a half, plus uncut, unedited, full uncut and after shows, that's, you know, between 2 and 5, 7, sometimes 10 hours. You think that it would be the case that at least my subscribers would be kept sacrosanct as a YouTube videographer, really trying hard over the 10 years I've done this as a career to not just have to rely on the flat earthers that see what I do as valuable and therefore offer me financial support directly via things like PayPal and Coffee. But you'd hope that over the 10 years, with the amount of videography work, that it wouldn't be the case that I just wasn't overtaken by the people who have been charged at YouTube Store as being put in preference to anybody who searches this subject. That's, you know, not fair enough. It's government mandated, so you kind of feel like you can't moan about it when YouTube have been told what they have to do in terms of the preferred content, in quotation marks, that they have to promote. But when they're literally unsubscribing members who pay to watch the content I produce, it just feels like the censorship's a bit beyond the pale. It's gone beyond scummy in terms of YouTube's treatment of me as a YouTuber. Now, in the pre-show, I was saying that it doesn't matter where you sit on that scale. There's going to be someone below you with 1,000 subscribers that goes, "What are you moaning about? At least your channel's monetized. I've been doing it for X number of years and can't even get monetized yet." And there's going to be people at the other end of the scale, like Pearl that we covered yesterday, who says, "Oh, well, the subscriptions that you get from shorts don't really mean anything. They don't translate into actual money. The long-form content that's being regularly watched on other channels, not mine, is what generates the revenue that I'm not generating." That's her sentiment currently. And it's not like I'm disagreeing with her, but I'm no more inclined to say it's righteous or just for me to look up the chain to Pearl and go, "You don't know you're born, love. Check it out. I'm having to support 2 kids and a family off my meager 26,000 subscribers, and YouTube will literally unsubscribe members," when there's a guy below me with 1,000 subs going, "I can't even get monetized." So it's a bit of to and fro in terms of me being a bit bitter about it, but also life's pretty sweet. So it's a bit of sweet moan about being heavily censored by YouTube to start this live stream off. On that note, check out the show from yesterday with Pearl. I've edited that down, as I do, during my daughter's art class today, to about an 8-minute video, which I will release probably on Thursday or Friday of this week on the main channel, this channel, if you're watching live, Nathan Oakley 1980. So I will release the 8-minute version of a trimmed out section specifically about reification and R values, and the suggestion that when measuring elevation angles could be deemed by our opponents as a flat earth reification, when in actuality it's a measurement of angle from surface level, and how that translates into the actual reification of a production R value that forms a radial value for a sphere Earth that projects a protractor measurement, that's the arc of the angles you measure from surface level, onto a sphere with the Polaris space latitude system and little degree numbers around that ball that's been created, and then had a pretty map painted onto it as a glorified protractor. that is a reification. If you choose to believe that you stood on the surface of a protractor, you've garnered by measuring the surface of Earth flat with degrees from the surface to a star like Polaris. That's reification. The measurement of the angle from ground level to star with a degree, that's just a measurement, not a reification. But like I say, that's been condensed into a video alongside the output of Pearl when we were utilising her moans about Christian women in the church, slut hoes that she was calling them, and how they are comparative to, at least by my standards, when drawing parallels, the dweebs and fart-sniffing cucks and beaters that we have to deal with who've invested heavily in heliocentric information like it's super valuable and end up calling the police and social services and pretty much all the things that were being listed off on Pearl's cyclical list of cope from yesterday. So for a lot of S's, check out the show yesterday with Pearl being covered, or indeed the 8-minute video, and I'll release it in the next couple of days. A shortened version, the same thing. I've also done a shorts video. This is why I'm a bit bittersweet about hearing from Cannabear, one of my members, that he's been unsubscribed. If there's one person that's mentioning that, then that means there's probably 1,000 people that have been unsubscribed from me over the course of however long. You know, just surreptitiously unsubscribed regardless of them watching the content. You know, it just pisses me off. Like I say, I've produced shorts videos of Pearl from yesterday, an 8-minute video from Pearl's show yesterday. There was a live show from Pearl yesterday, and there's 2, one members only and one to be released for the public, long form 5 or 6 hour videos, all from yesterday. That's the output that I'm producing. What do you get when you wake up? Oh, by the way, I'm a member and I've been unsubscribed. You're like, YouTube, you bastards. It's so fortunate that I've actually got a decent community that I've built up over the 10 years that will support me via coffee. While I'm saying it, I might as well shout it out. If you are so inclined and it's not going to break your bank to buy me a coffee, that is to say, give up $5 or $6 or whatever it is that is the cost of a coffee, it's a long time since I've bought one, then do so. You know, use the coffee link and just support me with a few bucks. It goes a massive distance, just a few bucks from people who are willing to say, yeah, I would be buying you a coffee if we were out and about and happened to be in each other's physical presence. Now, the fact that we can't be doesn't mean that I don't dedicate what I do, my time, that is, to producing the content that hopefully you all enjoy. And it doesn't get paid for by YouTube and ad revenue, that's for damn sure, when they're going out of their way to suppress me in such an egregious way. Like I say, it means I do have to do a little bit more e-begging to people like yourself listening to this plea to support me financially via things like the PayPal and Ko-Fi link. So please do so if you do have the means. If not, that is to say you don't have the means to do so, which is perfectly reasonable, please share one of the videos that I've produced. That is to say, either the 8-minute short, longer format videos, whatever you call them, not short but slightly longer videos, or indeed the 3-minute minus videos that are called shorts. They have a lot of work put into them to be shareable. That is to say, there's very limited, and if there is any swearing, it's censored to the point where it's not egregious and you can still share it. But at the moment, the raft of videos that are coming out on my main channel, this one, that are shorts, are of the variety that demonstrate how our opponents, if you want to call them that, on the globe side, take flat earth measurements and prerequisites to make their globe assertion, and how me personally am shoving those flat earth measurements back up them when they insist on talking to me about how spherical they want to measure Earth's surface with flat linear distances and flat elevations and flat parallel eye levels, and the list goes on. So share one of those YouTube Shorts videos if indeed you haven't got the financial means to support me in that way. So yeah, I'm all right. Bittersweet. Wish I wasn't so censored. Weren't expecting an answer that long, I'm sure. About 6 minutes. How are you? Everyone's ran off and got coffee while I've been waffling on for 6 minutes about how annoyed I am at the YouTube censorship. Fair enough, these things happen. Absolutely zero response. Zero fucks given by anybody on the panel or in Discord. Well, there you go. Go ahead.
Alphabet Inc. loves us. Alphabet Inc., the owner of Google and YouTube, yeah, they just love us.
Yeah, they clearly don't. I mean, they're towing the societal line of heliocentrism, the one world religion, and, you know, far be it for me to stand in the way. They were happy to promote me when I talked about my annoyance with Mandela effect. It's like talking about Earth not being a sphere, talking about my annoyance with Mandela effect, it all serves the same common purpose of creating a juxtaposition between two groups. Dweebs, fart sniffers, that's heliocentrists, and tree-hugging hippies, that's flat earthers, both talking about the controlled narrative of Earth not being or Earth being spherical. And alongside that, the people describing it not being spherical need to be deemed as stupid by talking about conspiratorial subjects like Sandy Hook, 9/11, Mandela effect. The list goes on.
Yeah, and they still have flat Earth on it, and that's the problem.
Yeah, as long as I was talking about, I don't know, how annoyed I was that people thought the world was made up of silicon trees, then I'm still promoting the idea that there's silicon trees. You know, by saying something, it's like telling a kid, don't put that fork in that electrical socket. Suddenly you've given the kid the idea that they should be putting forks. Well, why wouldn't I put a fork in? You know what I mean? It plants the seed, even if you're doing it in the negative.
It did for me, but I didn't use the fork. I used the spoon.
So what about the moon being made of cheese?
I wasn't thinking about it being made of cheese, but now you've said it, even if you were to say, I don't believe the Earth has a moon in an orbital motion that's made of cheese, these days we'd point out that, well, you're assuming an elliptical orbital motion that's derived from flat Earth measurements, but suddenly I've got this idea of it being cheese that I feel like I should overcome and defeat if you're proposing it in the positive. Or if you're proposing it in the negative, you've still achieved the same ends, which is planting the idea, the red herring idea of the moon being cheese, in my mind, distracting from the flat Earth prerequisites of orbital motion that would lead us to suggest it's an object we can travel to that can be physical in its nature and therefore be cheese. It's a whole string of red herrings.
No, not herrings. They're fish. I said cheese. Could be gorgonzola.
It's a whole string of red Leicester. But speaking of cheese, I was watching a shorts video the other day, right? My folks, when they were living on a farm, lived in Shropshire, and Shropshire Blue was a fairly common cheese that you'd eat in Shropshire because people made it in Shropshire, right? So it'd be available in the shops, and that was just a cheese that we regularly had. And I was watching this guy open up a massive cheese wheel and talk about in very hushed tones about this cheese that's very special that he's opening. And I'm looking at it thinking, it looks fairly familiar. It's Shropshire Blue, but he's obviously out in the States, and to them it's a very posh imported cheese. And you're like, okay, it's just weird hearing this cheese that, you know, in some random pub near my folks when they were there. They moved down to the south coast since, but when they were in the middle of the country, in this farming area of the country, you know, people would just eat that particular cheese with relative indifference. But to hear it talked about in hushed tones in some swanky American cheesery, you're like, they were talking about how long it'd been made, sort of going back to the 1300s or something. And you're like, yeah, I do vaguely remember people talking about it having a rich history when I was shoving it down on my baked potato. But it wasn't revered in the same way. It's just weird hearing things that are local to you talked about in such, you know, with such reverence in a foreign land, in this case, the States.
Well, speaking of the moon, I keep hearing you guys say that it's just a light in the sky, but they have it all mapped out.
Who has all what mapped out?
There's a map of the moon.
Oh, here we
So
go.
I don't see how it could be a light. I mean, they obviously mapped it out. Somebody went up there and took some measurements.
I mean, you can just take pictures of it. It's when people start contrasting it and suggesting that it's reflecting the moon, that the moon is a reflection of a map by contrast to, you know, an actual map that we've got of the territory, which is all incorrect. Craig's got one. He's got one on a big flag, like the moon map. I don't know what it's termed. It's probably got a more official term than that.
No, I think it's just called the moon map.
Oh, right. It's just called the moon map. So, yeah, I know what you're talking about. But I don't mind. When I was shown it by Craig, I immediately mocked it and sneered, you know, as I do, because I'm very sceptical, generally speaking, about most things like that. But fair play to anybody who, you know, likes that idea.
It's one of those, you could say there's a coincidence. It does have a similarity. There we go. That's life, isn't it? Just full of coincidences.
There might be something to it.
Sergio Studio moon map. Sorry, Nathan.
That's right. You go ahead, Len.
Is that the Sergio Studio moon map, Craig?
Yeah.
I knew it had a more fucking Ponzi name, and you knew it too, didn't you, Craig? You just weren't willing to say that Ponzi name that it had. The Sergio Studio map, did you say?
I think they've changed the name now anyway, Nathan, so it's something different.
That makes it official.
Sounds very Ponzi.
It's from the vibes of Cosmos.
Vibes of Cosmos. That's a YouTube channel, right?
Yes. And
well, fair play to him.
He's done other maps now. He's done the Mars map, I think.
Mars map? What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They've mapped these terrains, Nathan. They sent, a rover's been up there for a while now. So I'm sure it's mapping it all out.
So can we get the cartographers on the phone and how they mapped it out to the millimeter accuracy?
Aren't they in Iceland or Greenland or somewhere up there? Greenland? Greenland's the one that's covered in ice, and Iceland's the one that's really green. So I'm going to assume
no, that's the conspiracy that they say that they videotaped in Iceland or Greenland. You flat earthers just, somebody's got to take you there.
No, they are.
They got to put you on a rocket ship and bring you to Mars, and then you will see.
No. They are. Like, it's not... It's a bit like the deep submersion tank that's got an ISS replica in it. Oh, there's nothing to see here. We're just practicing it, right? You're like, no, that's it. That's the suggested light in the sky. There is no orbital mechanics. This flat Earth derived value that suggests things fall around a sphere Earth is violated by its own principal measurement and conversion that disallows you from reification. So you can't suggest that there is actually a tin can that's represented by the light we call the ISS. Ergo, the one in the tank is the one that they film men pretending to float around it in space. They're just in a tank, right? But they show you the tank to offer themselves plausible deniability. Well, if we were faking it, why would we show you the very thing we're faking it with? Well, because you don't want it to be suddenly revealed that you've got a tank, otherwise it would be really obvious that you were concealing a water-based version of the same thing. So you just hide it in plain sight. Well, the same is true for the Mars rovers. I can't remember if it's Greenland or Iceland. It's not relevant. The point is that they do have RC cars branded NASA that aren't the same Wall-E version that they suggest has been parachuted into an atmosphereless orange rock we call Mars. But they definitely disclaim that they've got rovers practicing on the Greenland soil that just happens to look exactly the same as Mars when you put a red filter on it. But they hide these things in plain sight. So it's not like if someone came along and went, no, there are no NASA rovers in Greenland. Yeah, there absolutely are. And NASA will admit to that. The fact that people are too dumb to put two and two together. Oh, right, well, Greenland does look a lot like NASA. Oh, that's exactly why we used it, says NASA. Because it's very much like Mars. All right, that makes perfect sense. If you're a complete dumbass, you'll believe the gaslighting liars at NASA when they say, oh, yeah, we use Greenland because it's just like Mars.
Yeah, they got to practice the rover somewhere.
Yeah, of course. So you're going to practice on something that's very similar to Martian terrain, nay, identical when you put a filter on it. Why wouldn't you? Somebody dig out a picture of the Greenland NASA RC cars. Don't get me wrong, I understand that these things are double the size of a fridge. But when you look at it without any context around it, it just looks like your average Joe's RC car with NASA written on it. And that's because what it is, People anomaly hunting, and they're like, this looks like there's a mouse on the Martian territory. You're like, it's because it's a mouse in Greenland with a filter on it. There is no sky vacuum, right? Let's just deal with this in case somebody's like, no, you're a conspirator, like 10 years. No, right? There is no area of volume above our head that the gas we are breathing at high pressure is not dispersing into. That's a violation, the suggestion that we have a vacuum above our head, of the law of nature known as the second law of thermodynamics. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we are breathing would fill the space. It's a law of nature. Entropic dispersion is a law. Therefore, we wouldn't be breathing if the sky was a vacuum. Now, notwithstanding the fact that the motion suggested for all of these lights in the sky is orbital motion, derived directly from flat Earth measurements that project systems like latitude onto a sphere that is a glorified protractor, derived from flat Earth measurements that are described in orbital motion as the equatorial plane that you must be in, that's to say in the centre of a ball, to describe the mathematical derivation of a motion around the sun and with rocks around us. For things like the expanded epicycles now known as retrograde motion with what they call planets, like Mars. Why is it called a planet? Because it moves slightly differently to the other lights in the sky. As the lights move across the sky, one of them will be Mars, and it will move in sync over the course of that night with all the rest of the stars. But the following night, it'll be slightly behind in its pattern with relation to the other lights as they move in the exact same motion. That distinguishment between a particular light on its cycle the following night is what was originally called epicycles and is now known as the retrograde motion of planets in an elliptical orbital motion, derived from flat Earth measurements of elevation angles of the stars, all tracked in the almanac. We know for the next 10,000 years exactly where those lights will be, above what ground, at what time. To the second! That's how our system is derived. We've taken that and tried to better explain why the lights move in the way they do. That's why we end up with orbital motion from Copernicus and elliptical motion from Kepler. That's why. Just to explain the difference between this finger being Mars as it moves with every light, and then the following night it being slightly behind as they move in the exact same motion they did the previous night. That's it. So to better explain that, we now have a system that derives latitude on a globe. Look at what the degrees are on the surface of the globe and know that for those to make any semblance of sense in terms of where they've been derived from in terms of measurements, you'd have to be in the ball at its centre, deriving those little numbers with degrees after them as a glorified protractor wrapped around your position so that the entire flat plane, that's the equatorial plane, can move in motion around the sun in an elliptical motion to better explain that system derived from Copernicus. That's it. You do absolutely unequivocally and foundationally require Earth be measured flat for every bit of bullshit that I just went through. Now, up until I said that, there was quite a lot of fart sniffers going, oh, wow, this is so exciting, Kepler and Huygens and Copernicus. Oh. Yeah, all the people who've invested in their dweeby, fart sniffy, beta and gamma way, and the ones who brace against us that were discussed yesterday when comparing the plight of someone like Pearl when she moans about having the police called on her. Yeah, we get the same thing. Because the fart sniffers who have heavily invested into the reification of being on rather than in a ball mathematically moving around the sun don't like it when we point out how flat Earth is in reality to foundationally base a ball belief on. Yeah, that'll get the police called on you and social services sent round to have your kids off you and things of that sort of nature when you're lowest of the low, societally speaking, dweebs, betas, gammas and cucks see that their oh so precious heliocentric information's being challenged by someone like me. Yeah? Same applies to the censorship. The reason I'm having to shout people out to support me via Ko-Fi or PayPal or Patreon is because YouTube society will cuck to the mainstream 500-year-old Copernican-based orbital motion, reified into a religion known as the one world religion of heliocentrism, so that you, the general public, can understand at a base level that you're on a ball moving around the sun because everybody just knows that, while the fart sniffers and dweebs and cucks of the world look into it at a greater extent. The extent that most people who, if they were watching, they're being censored from my plight as a YouTuber, those people would just whistle past it anyway because it doesn't seem like it's worth their investment of time. The fart sniffers, on the other hand, they definitely invested heavily in it and feel that I should have my kids taken off me or the police called or be locked up because they feel in fear of me. Things of that sort of nature. Sad beta behaviour. But share the show. You know, that was the main point of doing all that. You know, financially support me, smash the PayPal link, hit me up on the coffee link, buy me a coffee if you've got the means to do so. Or, more importantly, share the show. Just smash the share button. It's like 2 clicks. And then the algorithmic censorship can't thwart your share on your Facebook channel. And that's an empowerment that you can still take on a social media that's algorithmically scuppered by the people who own the platforms that we broadcast on. We don't really get to broadcast to the great unwashed. We get to broadcast to the limited number of people that YouTube will tolerate someone like me broadcasting to, because it would just send all of the betas and gammas into a meltdown. That's what would actually happen as the consensus started to brace against them. So please share the show to overcome the censorship. If you like what I'm doing, please support me financially. I'm done.
You said the gas will fill the space earlier, but that will not be oxygen, my friend.
Yeah, yesterday's show there was a suggestion that there isn't any, or there's a different percentage of oxygen in the air. Whatever. Like I say, there's quite a few people who hang around that are conspiratorial in nature, and there always will be. Those are my people. I am from that conspiratorial ilk, and, you know, far be it for me to deny what I am. It just annoys me that there are so many garbage conspiracies that genuinely muddy the waters of the fact that Earth is measured flat. Simultaneously, I recognise that other than the need to have a controlled opposition to the one world religion globe assertion, we have very little actual influence over what Earth is and how it's measured. It's measured flat regardless. But the fact that there's a lie about it not being flat, that's globe-shaped, requires there to be a whole version of a controlled opposition narrative to the reality of Earth's flat measured surface called Flat Earth, where people talk about oxygen quantities in the sky, trees being silicon, the world's timelines being changed with a Mandela effect, Taylor Swift being a clone, all manner of shite that make people who talk about Flat Earth be seen as the lowest of the low, below the bottom of the barrel dweebs and fart sniffers and cucks and gammas and beaters that call the police on me. Yeah? Below that, they need to be engineered. And the only people who are below the dweeby, fart sniffing, you know, what would you call them? Dungeons and Dragon playing dweebs, right? You need someone even lower status than that. And that's the tree-hugging hippies. Yeah? The people with the dream catchers talking about oxygen levels in the sky. That's our plight. But please share the show. Regardless if you're on the side of talking about Mandela effect or any other nonsense. Hopefully you still see value in what we do here on Flat Earth Debate. Putting it out there for everybody to hear, even though nobody's getting to actually receive the information based on YouTube censorship. But that can also, as I say, be thwarted. Smash the share button. It's a couple of clicks and show goes out to more people. And they can hear us talking about Earth being measured flat in all circumstances. And occasionally they can hear a chanting fundy come in and tell us how they've measured Earth flat to show how spherical it is. I never thought 10 years ago we'd get to the stage where our opponents would be the ones handing us the silver bullets of flat Earth measurements in every single suggested claim of sphericity. Now, the fact that while I would have never realised that, it was happening under my nose the entire time, like people were offering mathematics with surface level and sea level and altitudes, perpendicularity, linear distances, all of these things were already being discussed at the point that I could have never have imagined that everything being discussed was a flat Earth prerequisite and proof before we even discussed sphericity, derived from the same flat Earth measurements and prerequisites. Now, 10 years on, you're like, wow, we're in the strongest position we could ever be. What's that you say? You're a member and you've been unsubscribed? Shocking. That's why. This is and has always been the cutting edge of this subject. Flat Earth Debate's the cutting edge, to the point where we are effectively making every discussion point in the controlled opposition narrative as we now know it to be redundant. discussing how non-globe shaped it is when all the measurements for every discussion that ever took place ever were flat, is why we need to be censored out of existence. So please share the show in all sincerity, or support me financially if you recognise that censorship does make it quite difficult for me as a YouTuber. And it does, in sincerity, make life very difficult. Knowing that my loyal, paying audience get unsubscribed from the channel. Then you go, now I know why a channel with 25,000 subscribers gets less than double digits when broadcasting material. That's why. Yeah? Because it's ordained. Now, I'd say that that's not algorithmic. Someone's got their finger on a button somewhere to make that happen. I smile about it, like I say, but for the very generous support of people who are surrounding me and do see it as valuable and want it to be in existence to some degree, even if it's censored from the view of the public. Those people do give me coffees and PayPals and Patreons and support me financially. And I'm glad they do, because it means I can still do this in spite of getting absolutely hammered by someone like YouTube in their scumbaggery and censorship and removal of subs.
Yeah, the deck is certainly stacked against this particular show here. And you, what are you going to do? You just got to continue pumping out shows and hopefully go on a book tour soon.
Right. I mean, you can understand
the book is the key.
I think so. I mean, the book will make a difference when I'm out there promoting something that I want to put the balance back slightly in my favour in terms of the financial output of the work I do. Because there's been 10 years of it, I can produce a book, and therefore I can put that on the shelves and invite people to purchase it, which will hopefully help. God, I hope it helps. But there we go. You know, in the meantime, I'll just keep e-begging. And probably have to do so even then, because there's chances are that what I think is horrendous censorship, maybe it'll get worse, right? Maybe it'll go from having single-digit people watching a premiering stream that I put out on a channel with 26,000 subscribers to being 0 people watching, which is the case sometimes when there's 2 or 3 people watching on the second channel. It'll say 0 watchers, and it's like, hold on, we're chatting it. There's more than 2 people in the chat. But yet, an onlooker looks to the channel and sees that there's 0 people watching, goes, I don't think I want to watch that, deterring people even further. So it could be even more egregious as it is on my second channel. So I should be grateful for at least it's 9 people watching when I premiere a stream. I should be grateful, right? Be grateful for small mercies. What I will do, instead of being grateful to the absolute scumbags at YouTube who censor the living daylights out of me, is actually express my genuine, sincere gratitude to the people who do support me. Thank you. If you have, in the last month or so, since I've been heavily e-begging on Ko-Fi, supported me via that means or by PayPal or whatever else, thank you. Thank you so much that I'm still capable of sitting here doing this right now, directly as a consequence of you being generous. You know, the people who give me $5, $10 here or there and on buying me a coffee, basically. They're the people that are keeping the lights on in sincerity, the Patreons. Yeah? So thank you. Thank you very much. I'm privileged to be sat here, even though it's reaching limited people. I can only apologise and say, hand on heart, it's not my fault. I do put in the effort to produce good material. However, the egregious level of YouTube censorship precludes me putting that message that you financially support out to a greater degree of people. Not for the want of trying, not for the want of effort, not for not producing decent material and editing it into shorts and medium and long form content. It's purely YouTube censorship. There's no other way to describe it. And I literally have no control over that. I can only produce the best quality material that I do. And I do. Check out the shorts clips. You know, they are literally riddled with flat earth prerequisites being used by opponents as I trickle them out on a daily basis at the moment. So yeah, share one of those videos if you can't financially support me. Hopefully a few people will smash the share button. Speaking of which, did you want to actually have a listen to what I produced?
Sure.
Go for it.
Okay. Let's bring it up. Do you want the 3-minute video or the 8-minute video?
Go for the 8.
You want to go for the 8-minute video? Okay. Logistical analysis, you name it, Earth's been measured flat for it in the conventional standard linear miles that we all know and love. That's how Earth gets measured. What's that? You've got a Taylor's tape? How intriguing.
Well, hold on a sec. Well, So the radius of Earth being 3959, if you believe it's a sphere, that's arcing. Is that level curving at the rate of level?
Well, it just doesn't bend, does it? This is the problem. They require foundationally that these axioms hold true. So John's just hit on the perfect example. I don't know if he's doing it by sarcasm to get in his levels deviating from levels at the rate of levels, which is hilarious. But ultimately, they're tied axiomatically to these principles because they require them as a foundation for their globe belief. In this instance, specifically, that John's just mentioned, radius, it's alleged that the spherical Earth's surface has a radius of 3959 miles. Well, that means that the axiom of linear distance must hold true, and miles are flat, for your radius to be a radius when you ascribe it that value. Now, it's not like, oh, well, in certain circumstances, I can bend the principal prerequisite flatness of a mile because a tailor's tape can wrap around my fat belly when I go and have a suit cut for me. Well, that's lovely and all, but we measure Earth in linear distance values that you fundamentally require to be axiomatically held true when you describe linear miles in any of your measurements for your ball. Its heart points out to anybody who's got half a brain how flat Earth has been measured to then bend, that's violate an axiom of its own measurement to suggest a projected spherical surface be the surface we stand upon, when in reality that spherical Earth is a derived mathematical convention that has its heart in the flat Earth linear mile derivations, calculations, and ultimately measurements that we take of Earth's surface to create that spherical convention. So you violate the very base measurement if you believe that you stood on the outside edge of a protractor with values that are logged with little degree symbols after them, areas of equal elevation derived from flat Earth measurements to Polaris, called latitude, marked on the outside edge of the glorified protractor people think they're living on, when they take this to be the surface, when in reality the degrees, as clearly denoted, are with respect to a planar surface that you could describe with a glorified protractor wrapped around you at a centre point. That's all the globe is. A convention derived from flat Earth foundational measurements that include the description of linear miles as part of the radial value derivation in the first instance. A flat Earth is required by everyone. Why? Because that's how Earth gets measured. Flat in all circumstances, even if you're deriving a suggested, projectable, reifiable, spherical surface with the degrees that you measure from the flat surface labelled upon it. Earth's measured flat for everyone.
We go up and down and measure mountains in reference to a flat plane. We just don't measure any Earth curves.
That sort of hierarchical understanding is just a natural social thing that has to be established. Now, in terms of the biblical philosophy in this particular regard, it's saying, no, men in that pecking order are just a bit above their wives. That's what, in essence, it's saying. But that's not to say that you automatically have to assume that that makes the guy the horrible boss that's putting the derogatory work on the underlings. Well, no, managers aren't doing that. They're just getting the job done. And in terms of a husband and wife comparison, there's no difference, right? It's just getting what needs to be done in your household. It's no different.
Correct. Would it make sense for me to send my wife out to install flooring and me do the dishes? I mean, that's stupid. But let me ask you a question. Is a measurement a reification?
It's a measurement a reification? No, a measurement is not a reification. It's known as hypothesization, or the fallacy of misplaced concretedness, where you take something that isn't real and propose it as being real. So that's what reification means. The fallacy of misplaced concretedness. No, a measurement's just a measurement.
Okay, because we have a guy in chat saying, sounds familiar to how globers get treated by some flat earthers as well. Is Nathan trying to make flat earth people feel like victims so they feel more right going down the reification road?
I'm not telling them to do anything. I mean, in terms of how Earth gets measured, it gets measured flat, including but not limited to the acquisition of said radial value as discussed earlier. Now, you can either accept that the reification of the projected map of a spherical world based on a protractor measurement. So when you've got a picture of a globe Earth and it's got all of the degrees of latitude with the number and a little circle next to it, right? That's a convention. To suggest that the degrees that are the measurement that creates the convention is the reification is incorrect. In order to create a globe with a curved surface, you measure degrees to form the latitude system. So you take a measurement from a flat Earth that creates the straight lines and angles with respect to a vertex point that you can describe with little numbers that have got a little circle after them. That's the convention, right? When you say, well, I'm stood on that curve of the protractor, that's the reification. The measurement is just the measurement of the surface with respect to a star, in this case Polaris, that gives you a convention of a curved surface to believe in. If you then say, I am on the curved surface, created with these measurements of degrees, then the suggestion of being on the curved surface is the reification. That's the misplaced concretedness. There's nothing concrete in standing on a protractor that creates degree measurements. But to say, well, the measurement from the surface level of the degree is the reification, no, that's just a degree. It's the line that you draw through a protractor with a number ascribed to it. Well, to get that number of a light that you're looking at in the sky, that's the measurement of a light in the sky in a degree. And to create the system of sphericity, that's the map painted on the protractor that you measured that angle with, then move forward to suggest as being real, there's the reification, not the measurement of the angle. That's ludicrous. Don't know why I felt the need to go through it 3 times, but given that somebody's now suggesting that the measurement's a reification rather than the after-the-fact misplaced concretedness of standing on a curve of a protractor that you've measured angles with, it's just crazy. It sounds like cope. No, we're not reifying the curve of the protractor we measure the flat surface with. You're reifying a measurement of degrees. It's not reification, it's just a degree measurement from flat surface level. But the globe is definitely a reification. We done? Anything else?
Well, you're supposed to go to your church for the truth. And if the church is more worried about their reputation, about money, if they are not even brave enough to give an answer on camera, then I have to conclude that they're a bunch of, I don't want to say the P word, but Jesus and the apostles, from what I understand, they said the truth with death as the potential other side. And many of them did die for their faith. And to me, you're not really a real Christian if you don't put your money where your mouth is and you're afraid of some women complaining at church.
Logistical analysis, you name it. Okay, so those 2 clips are actually, you probably wouldn't realise it was 2 clips, but they were from about an hour apart in yesterday's Uncut and After show. So you can probably see at one point I'm using a handheld mic, this mic, and most of the time, like on screen now, I'm using my shotgun mic. And that's because, like I say, they were quite a significant distance apart in time when I edited them together, just to make a coherent point about the reification of the protractor that is a globe Earth. The measurements come from the surface of the angles to Polaris. That forms the degrees that you see on a globe. That is you standing inside a globe, a glorified protractor, that I said earlier will be put in motion around the sun. Well, to put that into an 8-minute video where I'm explaining, after being asked, is a measurement reification? Well, that's already after me describing the reification from a flat Earth measurement into an R value, to then have it suggested that the very measurement that's creating the globe, because we're appealing to that as being a flat Earth measurement, which it absolutely is, it's an elevation angle. Part of the angle's on the surface, the other part of the angle goes to Polaris. That's an elevation, meaning from surface level, angle, meaning 2 straight lines meeting at a vertex, for Polaris to form that system that's got the degrees written on it. So, I'm quite proud that I can actually form at least a reasonably concise explanation of the reification of an R value that creates a ball in an 8-minute format that's available. It's just a shame that YouTube censor the living daylights out of me and unsubscribe people who are paying money to be my member. But there we go, that's life. Please share the show. There's like almost 50 people watching, 49 people currently watching this live stream. So please share the show. If you haven't done so already, click. Put it on your favourite outlet in terms of social media. If you're a Bebo user, put it on Bebo. If you like MySpace, stick it on MySpace. Whack it on Skype, just share it by whatever means that you've got available to you. And hopefully that'll mean that there's an increased number of actual people who might find it in their heart to support me financially via the means below this video. another thing that gets asked, even though I say it at the beginning of each of these live shows, there's a link below the video. It's in the info box if you did want to hit the coffee link and buy me a coffee. So yes. Right, that's it. That's the end of that video. I also made a 3-minute version. Currently it's members only. I will eventually, like I say, on either Thursday or Friday of this week, release this to the general public. But for the time being, that's a members only video. Or obviously, if you've watched this live stream, you've got to see it. Or if you watched yesterday, you'd have got the elongated version, along with a lot of arguing about whether or not oxygen's at 21% or not. Go ahead, Len.
I vaguely remember you saying, ask Click OK about something in yesterday's after show. Can you remember what that was about?
It would have been probably about computing of some description if we were talking about data centers.
No, I think it was how he deals or how...
Oh, yeah. So Craig Jr. was saying that Craig Sr.'s rhetoric when dealing with customers, these are people that obviously keep him in business because they're using his services and paying him for them. Well, he'll often get in discussions, according to Craig Jr., who was telling me this, with members of the general public, and Flat Earth is one of the subjects that will come up. And Craig Jr. was saying Craig Sr.'s rhetoric is far more concise these days as a consequence of, generally speaking, the rhetoric that we deal with here on Flat Earth Debate in regards to Earth being simply measured flat. That draws a conclusion to any discussion about Flat Earth a lot more quickly, according to Craig Jr. So what I'd suggested is when Click OK returned, because it was after their shop had closed, so they weren't actually listening to us make this comparison, you know, maybe ask one of them, Craig Jr. or Craig Sr., about their interactions with the general public, if they're willing. But they're probably doing something. They might be fitting a computer chip to something as we speak, so they might not be around, either of them. But we'll see.
I heard the last sentence of that.
Your son was saying that you're more concise in the last, say, 12 months when you deal with the general public, because you just say Earth's just measured flat, and then you get to the point much, much quicker than having an elongated debate with them. That was his general demeanour when he was saying, oh, you know, Dad's much more concise with customers now. He just nips it in the bud with Earth's measured flat pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they can't really argue, but people argue because they like to argue, don't they? But ultimately, if you point out that it's all measured in a way that, and I always come back to the aeroplanes about how it takes off and has to know exactly what's underneath it, how high it is, everywhere it is. And yeah, they get that. They do understand that. But it still doesn't mean they don't live on a ball.
Yeah, you can't, there's no accounting for cognitive dissonance. No matter what you do, because people have been born and raised in the one world religion of heliocentrism, therefore it goes without saying that we're on a ball. It can also go without saying that, yeah, well, I understand implicitly that we measure Earth flat for the altitudes of the mountains you don't want parallel flight level planes to smash into. That goes without saying also. Like, well, both of them can't be simultaneously true, but you as a human being can hold them both simultaneously. Yeah, that's called cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, or what I call the magic spell. But it does save a lot of arguments, because sometimes people spout out, you know, feast of nonsense stuff, and you go, well, it's not relevant. We don't need to talk about that. It's not really, doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah, like with Shaq and Bill Burr. Well, how does this affect the politics of the... Whoa. Earth, that's the soil we stand on. Flat, that's an aspect we can measure. What do you mean, how's it going to affect the politics? Why would they lie? Who gives a crap? Complete category error. So you can just shut that non sequitur down immediately if you know that it's measured flat. Whereas it seems of importance when you got here 10 years ago. Oh, well, they lie because they need to keep us under control and hide God. No. Flat, that's an aspect we can measure of Earth, the surface we stand on. Nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with lies, nothing to do with anything other than Earth and its flat measured surface. That's it. Done. Now, if you want to expand on that, well, why have we got a heliocentric worldview at all if it's just measured flat? Well, we needed to measure it flat to create the worldview that you believe in. That's how we derived it. We measured Earth flat for that too.
Yeah, so when they ask the question, why would they lie? You say, well, it doesn't really matter if they did or if they didn't, whatever. But we don't have to lie because it's just measurements. There's no lie involved.
Yeah, and denial of those measurements is ultimately a denial of the foundational requirement for you and your globe face. For you to have a globe face, you foundationally require Earth be measured flat to create it. Now again, asking why they'd lie and create a world that violates the axiomatic measurements of the surface is irrelevant. We do measure Earth flat. It's required to have a ball to believe in. And that ends the discussion. It's just measured flat. It was anyway and will continue to be, even if people peddle the one world religion of a sphere derived from Copernicus, Kepler and Huygens scaling the lights that they tried to better explain why the movement varies slightly. That's it. The fact that that's now turned into your belief after reification doesn't alter the flat measurements that created that belief for you to reify. It's still flat. It has to be. You've got a radial value in your sphere belief. That's linear. It's miles. It's derived from flat Earth angles to Polaris. The degrees that are on your glorified protractor that you believe you're standing on, called the globe Earth, have little numbers with degrees written on them. Well, they've come from a measurement of a flat surface with you in a ball. I mean, you can believe that you're in a ball if you like. What's that? You're on a ball? No, you can't be. Otherwise, the latitude system that we measure flat won't work when it's wrapped around a ball with a pretty painting of a map on it that's actually just a protractor with you inside it on the equatorial plane. That's you utilising a planar surface for measurement of angles. Now, if you want to believe you're in a ball, you can. But we are still measuring flat inside that ball that you now think you're in. Now you understand the error of your ways when you thought you were on a ball. No, in a ball that you can't possibly be in because it's a glorified protractor. But we do measure Earth flat to achieve that. So ends the discussion.
And you can't have a curve without a flat line. Without a flat line, the curve doesn't exist.
Yeah, here it is on screen. You on a plane measuring azimuth and altitude. The sun's angle with respect to a flat plane creates a protractor, in this case a hemispherical view, and that hemispherical view can have little latitude numbers put on it, which would require you to understand implicitly how inside a ball you are. Not that you can be inside a ball, you can only be on a plane measuring angles to the sun, off a plane. For altitude measurements, they're called altitude angles. And azimuth, that's the horizontal directionality that Earth will always have. What's that? North? You're on the west side, right, Shaq? Yeah, they're flat Earth degrees from north. It's called azimuth. They're horizontal. Like on this diagram that says azimuth, with north, south, east and west diagrammatically exampled on it. Yeah, they're flat Earth measurements. That's how we measure Earth for directions. There's no globe directions, only the flat ones. That's what azimuth is. Again, with you having to metaphorically picture yourself inside a ball, hemispherical by description. Got 52 people watching. Wow, we've broken that 50 people barrier. Shout out to him's sake. He says, but why male models? That is from Zoolander. So in Zoolander, you've got the guy who plays Mulder or Scully or whichever that character is. What's the guy's name? I can remember. Is it Duchovny? Is it David Duchovny? He's with Ben Stiller and he's explaining with his hand. Say again? What's the guy who played the male?
David Duchovny was in Zoolander. He had a cameo. I remember it.
He's got his hand in a hermetically sealed chamber because he was a former hand model. And he has to explain to the model character Zoolander why models are perfect. Because they can slip into highly secure areas because they're known and they have status. They're in peak physical condition and are brain dead, so easily trained and manipulated into becoming assassins. So after explaining all of this to the Zoolander character, in answer to the question, but why male models, he just repeats it. Now, the reality is that he forgot the line. like is the case with most good comedy, it's improvised by the actor in the moment. It's not necessarily as a result of good script writing. I mean, there's exceptions. Things like Airplane are purely down to good script writing. But a lot of comedy that you watch on movies, the production team relies upon having good comedic actors improvising good lines. So if you're ever watching a comedy and go, this seems badly paced, it's because they're relying on the improvisation of the actors to make it funny. So when you hear, oh, this particular line was improvised by Hugh Jackman in the moment, you're like, well, of course it was. They're looking for a humorous aside in this particular moment, and they just say to the actor, just say what comes naturally, hopefully it'll be funny. And with this particular instance, he just repeats the line, why male models? But because he's dumb as all shit, when it comes across that he's just not paid attention to the full explanation. So the David Duchovny character has to say, well, that like I've just explained it like 25 seconds ago. But we get that all the time. You're like, radial values have to be linear. They're flat Earth derive values from angles that, after calculation, can give you a distance in a linear mile. So they have to be flat. Earth has to be flat. These are mile measurements along the surface. But why flat radii? Like, what? I've just explained it 10 seconds ago. What are you asking? Anyway, shout out to him's sake. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. But why male models? Ben Stiller, very funny indeed. Right, we're almost up on the hour. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun? Anybody wants to dig out anything for us to cover this week? I know it's already almost halfway through the week as it's Tuesday, but feel free to drop me a line and just let me know if there's a particular piece of material that you'd like us to cover. As a reaction video, I'm up for doing more reaction videos. It's a nice, relaxed way to spend the live show. Not that the time doesn't tick away quite happily without having any reactions being done in the show. Did you guys enjoy the 6-hour epic that was yesterday's after show? Check it out if you remember. Yes, Nathan, we really enjoyed it. I'm glad you stayed recording for it. Well, I was doing a bit of epoxying. You know how it is. Right, I'm not getting any responses. I'm going to round out. With that, I will say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow.
What was that? I said, I think I got the black lung, Pop.
I think I've got the black lung. You've been down there for one day. Talk to me in 40 years.
And by the way, my goldfish is still alive.
Oh, we were really concerned.
Yeah. Day 10 in still water.
Stick to the turtles.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yeah, he's got any of those on him. But yeah, the heartbreak and the care of the dogs and the cats and the goldfish and all that stuff. Yeah, just stick to the turtles.
Okay.
What I did was I've been feeding them regular goldfish. They're like 29 cents each. But they're like small. So what I did was I got the bigger ones. So they're 49 cents each and 3 times the size. And man, you got to see the action when that happens. And like I say, I put the extra ones I have in the bucket with about 3 or 4 inches of water in a regular 5-gallon bucket.
I don't remember recalling asking you about this or this ever coming up in conversation. Am I having a mild stroke? What's going on?
Well, it goes along with the 21% oxygen and how it's energy and fish don't. I'm not breathing in water or whatever he said. It's the energy. If the if the lake or the ocean, wherever they're in, stays still, they would die. But there's always movement, so the energy's what's giving them their life. Well, I've got a stagnant, freaking no energy, still as can be, 3 or 4 inches high of water in a 5-gallon bucket, and my goldfish have been in there for 10 freaking days, and they're still alive.
Yeah, but you double talked.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
They're still alive. I didn't double talk.
Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Heroes in a half shell. Turtle power.
Yeah. What the hell are you doing with a turtle?
I rescued them from getting ran over on the highway. So I got a little domain for them here.
Did you know? Did you know that in the UK, we weren't allowed to have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon? They had to rebrand it, so it was called here the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, and they edited out the nunchucks that Michelangelo had. So Michelangelo had no nunchucks. So when he used to fight with somebody, he was fighting with an invisible weapon that they edited out of the cartoon. Here in the UK. Too violent. Nunchucks were deemed too violent.
Well, I did kick some ass.
But can you imagine what a nightmare that would be for the production of the toys? Like you'd have to rebrand all of the packaging from Ninja to Hero.
So it's Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles?
Here in the UK, yes. Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. They had to rewrite the song as well. I'm not even joking.
So they took the word ninja out of it.
And the nunchucks.
Terrible.
I didn't necessarily mean that for that conversation to be killed by my little fun fact about Ninja Turtles. But you did bring up goldfish, so, I'm blaming you.
Is the live show still going on?
No, I rounded out the live show.
Okay.
I shared an image of the Hero Turtles because I had to see the logo because I didn't know that, and I had to see that logo. It's weird.
Yeah, if the characters are on the picture, there'll be no nunchucks in the picture. There'll be the stick, there'll be the scythes, there'll be the big sword, but no nunchucks. Like a giant katana sword, no worries.
Something, but it's not there. Yeah, you're right.
It's just empty-handed. It's just literally got nothing.
So wait a second. The swords are okay. The fighting stick is okay, whatever that's called, but no nunchucks.
Yes, you're allowed katana and scythes or whatever they're called. The stick, no problem. Nunchucks, definitely not. Far too violent. 2 sticks attached with a chain, absolutely not.
They're allowed swords?
Yeah, the swords are there.
Well, you got to have swords because otherwise they'd have to re-edit every King Arthur story ever made.
I guess the nunchucks is because you can we made nunchucks. Once freaking the Bruce Lee movies started coming out in the 70s, every kid in the neighborhood was making nunchucks. And every kid in the neighborhood would come in with a freaking black eye.
Oh, that's not to say that as a child you couldn't purchase nunchucks. I mean, both myself and my brother had several sets of nunchucks, and you could buy a poster with the drills that you could do with the nunchucks, so you could practice with them in your bedroom. And you could go in as an 8-year-old child into Geeko Cymac, the martial arts shop that was down the road from us, and you could just walk in and purchase them. Or a giant sword if you wanted. Back in the 80s, anything went. You could buy ninja stars as a kid from a shop.
Yeah, I used
I'm
to
not
buy
even
my
kidding either.
from a fishing shop and my 2 air rifles and stuff. Couldn't do that today.
It just doesn't sound right. Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles.
I said the exact same thing about the crazy American version. Ninja, that sounds wrong. They're heroes.
Well, ninjas are assassins, right?
Well, they also had to change the name of Shredder. That was too violent, so they just called him Fred.
Fred, really?
No, not really. I'm joking.
For a second there, though.
They had to change his name to. Oh man.
It's true
What are you
because I
gonna
made it
do?
up myself.
So, do any of these things really help? Like interfering with something like that? Did it really stop whatever it was they felt couldn't be said or heard because it would influence kids?
I mean, Richard, if it helps one kid not hit himself in the head, I guess it's worth it.
It's like saying if it stops one kid from licking that window, then it's all worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Well, the weird thing is, we were making nunchucks, but it wasn't until this kid Mike came around with real nunchucks. They were like 3 times the size of the ones we were making. So we weren't even making them right. We had like little stubs, and when we seen a real pair of nunchucks, those things were long.
Yeah, in a drill, you needed to be able to swing one of them and be able to stop it under your armpit whilst holding it at a length in your opposite hand. So yeah, they're fairly substantial sized weapons, I would say. They're big. Anyway, you need a flat earth for nunchucks. Right, who's in the G Plus panel? I need to step away for a minute. I can't have endless dead air. Who's around in G Plus?
I'm here. I came in late. I missed the whole show. So maybe Neil or Len or Adam can give me a synopsis of the day.
Yeah, give me a synopsis. Give him a breakdown of the egregious censorship.
That's what I was going to say is, Nathan's being suppressed.
No, I think he's just delusional. He's imagining it all.
Suppressed. He just needs something to perk him up.
Nathan just wants to be a victim.
Well,
An anti-suppressant.
hold on. When you have people that are members of your show, all of a sudden they been unsubscribed. It does seem a little strange. Can't trust the numbers.
Wait, unsubscribed from the feed or unsubscribed as a member?
Unsubscribed.
So with an active membership, but just getting no notifications or stats or anything on the channel.
That's been going on for me forever. It's been going off and on, so you don't know whether you're getting all the notifications. I mean, like the past couple of days, I've been getting, we're talking YouTube, right? Notifications that the show's coming on or that the premiere's showing or something like that. I'll get those for the notices for the shows once in a while, but there are weeks when I don't get any for days, or they come real late.
Well, I'm just got to get around the censorship. And I was saying that the book is going to, is, to me, I think is key in overcoming the censorship somewhat.
Well, I think the only way to do that or to ensure that is to make sure that it gets promoted outside of the show. Because keeping it in the show is not going to.
Yeah, well, that's the plan. We got them set up to go on Good Morning America. Which I was saying the other day, you never know. You promote this thing right, you could wind up on Good Morning America or whatever is similar to it in the UK or England, whatever you want to call that freaking place these guys are living in.
I'd like to see Nathan versus Pierce Morgan.
No. That just goes to a shit show. I think you just try to hit up and get Shaq interested in contacting Nathan.
Oh yeah, Shaq is getting a copy of the book. No doubt about it. I'm sending him one. I don't think, you're underestimating Nathan. He proved with a bunch of freaking ballers that it doesn't turn. He can stop it from turning into a shit show. He can keep his composure. I don't think he's going to be that way when he's promoting his book. Now, Pierce Morgan might start spiraling.
Yeah, but see, it'll be Pierce's show. You notice how the Shaq and Bill Burr video is a perfect example of how Shaq actually took it the way it should go. Oh, you don't think the earth is flat? And made Bill Burr look like the cuck little whiny Glober bot that he is, and tried to do the shaming stuff. And man, I wouldn't try to do anything to shame Shaq, especially if he's right in front of me. The dude is imposing, but he's a teddy bear,
Yeah, until you get him mad.
Well,
and you'll see.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. See, it doesn't matter whose show it is. Nathan will take it over. You got to remember one thing with the measurements. It's like in the movie Seven. John Doe has the upper hand. We got the upper hand. We don't got no freaking pair of deuces. We got a royal flush, baby. Got the upper hand, a hand that cannot lose because it is, beyond the shadow of a doubt, measured flat.
All it would take is someone like Shaq see that reaction video Nathan did, and for him to either do another reaction video or email Nathan and say something, say hey, and for them to just have a conversation.
Are you eating one of your sheep?
I'm eating some of my chicken eggs.
Nice.
Yeah. Man, we're going to get up to 90. It's already 82. We're going to get up to like 90 today. And super humid. It's not a good day today.
Yeah, the fan is staying on, mates.
Man, don't tell me you don't got no AC as well.
Yeah, that is correct at the moment, based on how my house is, or the house that I reside.
Oh boy.
There's no central air thermometer setting or any of that stuff. This is an older house that I'm residing.
Well, I have my AC's on 24/7, and when it gets hot, I mean, when they come and they check, they put their freaking temperature gauge over the freaking vent. Well, it's coming out 68 degrees. Yeah, but the temperature of the house is 76, bro. I don't want to hear what it's reading when you put your freaking thermometer right by the cold air. Look what the temperature of my whole house is reading, 76. I got to keep on all ceiling fans. And then late at night, it'll go down to 70, sometimes 69. But when it's in the heat of the day, 76, 77, I watch temperature go up as my air conditioner keeps pumping out. I mean, but if I don't have the ceiling fans going, it'll be extremely hot in here. It's comfortable. But I mean, you just got to be sitting back. I mean, if you're doing anything, you're going to start sweating.
What you got to do is go out, muck a stall, lift a few hay bales, make sure all the water tanks are full. And then you come back in, and if your house is 78 and it's 90 outside, it's cold.
Yeah, when you first come in, like, because my car doesn't have any AC, so I had to go out with my wife yesterday. When we came back in, even though it's 75 degrees in the house, even I got my air conditioner set at 68, but it's 75. Yeah, it's cool. You come in, you feel good. So that does work, but it's I don't know. I got very high ceilings. I got like 12-foot ceilings, 10 foot at least. They're very high, so it's hard to in the wintertime heat this place, and in the summertime cool it. It's just freaking hard. They didn't put the right system in for this, that's for sure. And I hate that forced hot air nonsense. Can't beat radiated heat. The radiators, they stay hot, you know. Just their way of freaking making you pay more for your electric. Come on, Witsit. Discover that free energy, man.
Free energy is already there. We're just forced to pay for it. The only thing that causes you to pay for it is they put a meter on it.
There's a contradiction.
No, I'm convinced. I'm convinced that if everybody's power was hooked up, just like it is now.
So what? You still got to run the electric.
No, the electricity comes through a meter.
Oh God!
No, the meter's how they charge you. Everybody would have electricity if everyone has the electricity that they're getting. The only difference is that they've got a meter there that charges you for it. It goes through.
Yeah, because you have electricity running through your freaking house. So you got all these electrical lines.
Right. Those electrical lines are what's collecting the energy.
Okay, so how are you going to get? Yeah, and people put those up, right? Those are maintained. When it gets knocked down, they come and they freaking got to, which is always weird to me. Why would you put electrical lines, right on the edge around by trees? Why wouldn't you at least excavate 10 to 20 feet out where there's no trees so they don't come knocking down your lines when there's a storm? Oh, I see. So it's steady work. It's job security. Makes no sense to me where they put these electrical lines up in the country areas. In the city, it's different. I mean, you got the electrical poles. What's going to happen is going to happen. Car smash it into one, yeah, it'll take it out. But when I lived upstate New York, if the wind blew too hard, you freaking lost power. And then I looked and I'm like, this is why. They got their electrical lines freaking, they got them built up like 2 feet away from huge trees. So, of course, during the storm, a limb's going to get ripped off and you're going to lose your power. It's a brainiac that did that. Oh, wait, I know. They couldn't take out trees 20 feet. Just now you're wasting the environment. I see.
Nah, maybe they put them in years before the trees were grown up. They keep them all along the roads and stuff like that for easement. So
why do they even run above? Why don't they run them underneath?
Because wires need to be exposed and up in the air as high as possible in order to gather the electricity that's in the air.
But can't there be one point where it's in the air?
Easier for access to repair and maintain, Neil.
Yeah, I know. Job security.
Isn't it interesting that we're complaining about all these power centers or data centers and stuff like that, and about all the water they use, but no one's complaining about all the energy and electricity they use? I haven't heard anything about, at least out here in the Midwest, about problems with not being able to generate enough electricity.
Well, are they, hold on, here's the thing. However electricity works, are they poisoning the water?
Okay, so when you've got a system for cooling a computer, it operates a bit like a car in the respect that it's a closed system. Now, that's not to say that there's a degree of evaporation, but if you imagine your computer system, if it's water cooled, then there's a pump pumping liquid to a radiator that cools the water down and then pumps it back over the item that's producing heat. But it's a closed system. So when people offer this idea that these data centers are using tremendous amount of water, you're like, well, how is that the case? Is it that when you scale up a water-cooled system, suddenly it gets vastly worse in terms of the ability to be a closed system? Because it's, in my opinion, I mean, I don't know enough about data centers, but why would any closed-loop water-cooled system suddenly lose water? And if it is horrendously inefficient in terms of its ability to retain water in a closed system, what would happen to the water? Well, it would evaporate and then join the water cycle. Like any other water that evaporates, it's going to eventually condense in clouds and come back down to the ground again. It's a cycle. So there's two things that I take issue with. Number one, why are we suddenly losing vast amounts of water in a closed system? And two, why is it that we suddenly neglect the fact that we have a cyclical water system on Earth? Why are these two things not taken into consideration when you ask AI, how much does my generation of this thumbnail utilize in water? Oh, well, at least 8 milliliters to 50 milliliters of water. Oh, really? So you're suggesting that this closed system that's keeping the equipment cool is going to lose through evaporation, just through pure use, a quantity of water? Why?
Well, I think they're using the open system.
Hold on a second. They that was one of the questions one of the people had in this little chat they had going there, was that they're all in closed systems. So how is this even possible? So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but they're telling us they're open systems.
Yeah, but
So
that's
if you Google it,
saying they're a closed system. So what is it, closed or open? The people in chat were saying, yeah, but these data places are closed systems.
Yeah.
No, they're not. They're open systems.
Are they? What, you show me the example.
Well, that's what just the information they give me, Nathan. They operate both ways, like you talk about. But the ones they're building are using cooling towers, an open system.
I wouldn't worry about it. They're proposing low Earth orbit for data centers.
There is no low Earth orbit.
Well, that's where they're going to build them.
Orbit,
Japan's already putting them underwater.
Orbit only exists inside a ball. So when you describe Kepler or Copernicus elliptical orbital motion, what you're describing is the plane we call the equatorial plane, with you inside it, deriving the sphericity that is the latitude system wrapped around you. It's you in that as a center point, moving around the sun. Mathematical only. So when people take this notion that we can have a low Earth orbit, like, no, you can't. You can't put something in motion around the protractor that you've measured with respect to a plane and created a system in conceptual terminology called an equatorial plane, with a protractor with a painted map around it, with points projected onto it, as a convention that we call the globe Earth, and that mathematical convention being put in motion around the sun in mathematical terms, doesn't mean that we can be in a elliptical orbital motion. We can't. It's only capable of even being described mathematically from the center of a ball that you can never be in. So it's utterly ludicrous to suggest that what we're going to put data centers into orbit. Oh my God. What they've got is a giant black hole of money that they pour into. That we don't know where that money actually goes. Beyond the people who get employed at NASA, where does the money go? Because it's not going into the sky. There is no vacuum. There's no orbits. There's no tin cans floating around. There's no satellites in an orbital motion. It does not exist. None of it does. So what is it? Well, it's a big black hole of money the way you don't know where it goes. That's what it really is.
Thing says it's a closed loop system.
So why would it lose any water beyond a negligible amount like your car would lose? Like occasionally you have to check the expansion tank to see that it's not running a little bit low, because no system's perfect, and just by using it, it's going to a certain extent, lose a tiny bit of water. But like your air conditioning system, it's a closed system. It's not supposed to require topping up. It just funnels the water from the hot surface, that's the CPUs or GPUs processing unit that generates a huge amount of heat because it's drastically inefficient, and funnels it to a radiator somewhere else so it can expel the heat generated from the water through a radiator and then back to the CPU or GPU. That's what it does. So when this notion of, well, it's using a huge amount of water, is it? Once you've filled the system, that's it, right? It might need a little bit of topping up, I grant you, but this idea that it's pissing its way through water every single time you make an inquiry, to me, I'm no expert, but it just strikes me as the biggest load of bollocks ever.
It is. All they're doing is they're just spreading fear of scarcity. And whoever is controlling the access to people's water through the public water system is just scaring people.
Yeah.
We have a well out here. We have a well out here in the country. I've had wells most of my life. And don't think about water at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're talking out of both sides of their mouth. One time they're saying they're lying to us about how there's a water shortage, and on the other, but these data systems are wasting water. What? Or which one is it?
Same thing with electricity. They're saying that we can't generate enough power and we've got to do rolling brownouts, and these people are just going to have to shut off their power for a little bit because we can't produce enough. Yet data centers are using gigawatts of power all the time. Just like water, my only conclusion is that electricity is actually free, and it just is being harnessed by the grid.
Yeah, but that's not free.
No, I know.
It's me going outside, doing something myself, and having it come directly into my house. These systems that wasn't free.
Right. I'm fine. I'm all for paying the electric company to put up and maintain the grid and the wires and stuff like that. Yeah, that's a service, just like pumping water and cleaning it and taking the sewage and making you drink your own poop. And after they clean it a bunch of times and stuff like that, I'm all for paying.
That's not even true. That they don't, that's no. They're not freaking purifying toilet water.
Okay. Okay.
That's reservoirs. Anyway, I think bottled water. The bottom line is this: listen. My brother swears by the Tesla. Yeah, all you need is Tesla coil. Oh, who the freak's gonna make a Tesla coil?
No, I'm not. That's why I'm saying the electricity and how to get the infrastructure for the wire to your house. Yeah, that's a service. Just like the water, reservoirs for cities. Their service is to purify the water and put it to the pipes. That does not mean that water itself is a limited resource.
Okay, so let me try it this way. If everybody, let's say that owned the house, was able to, pull electricity for themselves, harness it, and freaking, have electricity running through their house, is that against the law?
No,
You sure?
no, I don't know. It is against the law to not use a meter. It's against the law. Well, in some places, it's against the law.
Yeah, you have to use the meter because you're hooked up to their grid. If you weren't hooked up to their grid, I built a house somewhere in the freaking middle of Alabama, nothing around, and I figure out a way because I'm a genius how to freaking harness electricity without any freaking electric company, and I get it going right into my house. They'll probably shut you down. That's where the problem lies, right there. Because they force you to you. Well, they don't force. Nobody's doing what I said we're doing. So they know they got you. But I guarantee if people tried to do that, they will be shut down. Oh, no, this is a danger. If you don't know what you're doing, you could start a fire. So it has to be by code.
We're kind of talking past each other, maybe. I mean, I get what you're saying.
Because there's a guy, my brother works, there's a guy that owns a pastry shop in Brooklyn. Once they started charging for water, he dug his own freaking well in the basement. Nobody knows he has it. He's got his own freaking water supply. Now, if people came in and found out, he would get shut down.
Really?
Yeah.
Like out here in the country, you have to dig your own well, and that's part of the cost of developing a property is you dig your own well. Farmers out here dig wells all the time for their livestock so they don't have to keep watering them every day.
Yeah, but do you have to pay for that?
No.
So once you got your well,
take about you have to pay to dig the damn well. Duh.
No. After that,
yeah, you don't pay for water that is available from God's resources.
Yeah, that's where you are. Not in New York City, you can't.
No, right, you can't. But, well, I don't know, New York City, no, you can't. But if you're out in the country, you can dig a well. Now, again, just like with building permits and property rules and taxes and zoning and blah, blah, blah bullshit, yeah, they control the resources of your private property by way of permits and permissions. Permit just means permission, right? They're giving you permission to do something. You shouldn't have to ask permission to provide for your family by digging a well. If you can dig a well in your property, right? I mean, congested neighborhood, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about, fairly out in the country. And if there's water available in the aquifer, you should be able to dig a well on your own property properly. And, you hire the right guys to do it. And it may have to go deep and all those considerations. But there is water in the ground. Just like there's natural gas in the ground. Good grief.
Yeah, you hit a vein.
Yeah, in Indiana, there's a town called Gas City. And this whole area, East Central Indiana, I think Muncie was pretty well known for its natural gas. You literally would drill a well and you'd tap into natural gas to feed your house. There wasn't a gas company. It's no different than digging a well for water. There weren't any utilities. It's like, well, okay, we need to, get gas for our house and barn and whatever. Building.
Well, there's certain states. I'm reading that there's certain states that are going to start taxing for well water.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Again, that's just the control system that keeps people dependent and not independent. And you know, I guess at this point is you don't have a choice in the larger cities and stuff like that. But
Well,
not
that's
too
why
far
we
out
live
of
on a
it.
globe. No, that's
Yeah.
why we live on a globe, because land is power. And if they could charge you for that land, right? I'm just saying this is God's green earth, right? So why do I have to pay for a piece of land? When they started colonizing America, how did that work out? Who were they paying for the land? People would just go set up camp, no?
Yeah, you're free to do that until you weren't.
And that's the Indians, right?
Oh,
The Indians had a monetary system, did they? They traded, didn't they?
wampum. Yeah, they bartered, which is the
They lived off the land, right?
they just lived on the land free until the controlling system, the government, decides to.
It's the freaking damn English.
It all goes back to the crown. In Admiralty law.
Came in and said, these people are savages. Let's freaking civilize them. Power of the gun, man. But I still wonder what would have happened if every single Indian tribe would have united. They would not have been able to, you know what I'm saying? But they did what they do. You divide and conquer.
And you appeal to greed, right? In a system, in a lifestyle where you don't need money and treasures, where you just live and you work the land and you barter with your neighbors and stuff like that. You can't conquer that. You have to appeal to greed and power and other things. You know, oh, we'll make you the mayor, we'll make you the sheriff, we'll make you the official, and you can have more prestige and power and money, and you can be the one that decides how this community will live and who can build a house where and who can drill a well or not. And let's all vote to have a centralized system of water gathering so that we can all have water. And we'll control it. And you know, this costs money, so everybody chip in a little bit.
Sounds like civilization to me.
A civilization is yeah, I suppose. I wonder if a civilization is different from a governed body. Yeah, civilization is different than a nation, right? We're just talking about Indians. There's the Cherokee nation. There's the Hebrew nation. Okay, those weren't governments. Those were a body of people sharing the same common God, right? So that's different than a civilization.
Civilization. Well, civilization. Look, it's the word is.
Let me guess. I'm going to bet that civilization has something to do with.
I don't know because you're off mute and I'm keeping.
I know.
Civilized nation. Civilization. Civilized nation. Kind of sounds the same.
One's governed under civil laws and one's governed under a common god or a common belief system, right? There was the Israelites, there were the Canaanites. Those are two different nations, we'll say. Versus civilization is probably, by definition, that's why I thought you were looking up a definition. And I was going to guess that a civilization is something that's governed by a common document or a common secular process. That's why we can have several different, communities within one civilization. I don't know, going off track.
Yes, I agree with the sentiment of this discussion.
You did want us to keep it going. So what's the difference between civilization and nation? According to the AI overlord, a civilization is a broad cultural identity defined by shared history, values, and traditions across vast regions or millennia. So, time and space, vast regions and millennia time. A nation, often called a nation state, is a modern, legally defined political entity with a specific government, territorial borders, and shared civic identity. So, pretty much basically the opposite of what I was just saying. Interesting. So, a civilization is basically a the cultural identity defined by history, values, and traditions. The nation, and then they turn that into nation state, is a modern, legally defined political entity with territorial borders, civic identity, government, and capabilities of, in my words, capabilities of making war with other nation states. But Neil, Israel was called a nation, right? Nation of Israel?
Show me proof of Jesus.
Harp? Is that you? Are you
Show me
channeling Harp?
proof Jesus existed.
Are
You
channeling
can't.
Harp? I rebuke that Harp spirit.
That was really funny, Neil, and you really cooked Harp yesterday. Calmly and with your composure, you just cooked him. That was brilliant.
Well, it's a red herring. We're talking about whatever we were talking about. What, oxygen? Why are you bringing up Jesus? Oh, I know where. I know why. Because subconsciously he knows that Jesus is the author of breath and life.
Yeah, there were people here on Discord piping up saying, "Oh, Neil has brought out the demon inside of him. He's a demon. He's a demon."
Listen, when it comes to these things, the Bible clearly says that without faith, it's impossible to please God. And it gives the whole list of the hall of faith. By faith, and it goes on to say the amazing feats that were accomplished through faith. Right? By faith, we know that the worlds were framed, right? By the word of God.
Yeah, dude. When somebody asks for proof of God like that, it's kind of like contrary to what the Bible even says about that. Because, like you said, it's faith based. We're called to be faithful and have faith in God. So if God was to just give us like empirical proof that He's real and like come down and have a little like sit down one-on-one tea party with you, you wouldn't really have to have faith, right? Because you would just know. So having faith is like the keystone of being a Christian.
Well, He did. He came down and they crucified Him. That's what Jesus said. It doesn't matter because you wouldn't believe even if one came back from the dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. But yeah, but modern day, like someone like Harp, to be demanding like physical proof, evidence of God is just like, it's kind of an it's an unreasonable thing to ask for, considering what God said about faith.
Yeah, well, we have the sure word of prophecy. There's no other book like it. I mean, you can line these prophecies up one by one, and they're still ready. A lot are still ready to unfold, and they are unfolding, right? But I mean, you can't. The prophecy that had, 500 years before, you have these certain words, and then it happens, But other than that, how do we know? Where do we get right from wrong? Where do we get our morals from? Surf Daddy, you spoke about this, right? How do we know what we know?
Epistemology. We only can know. What's I gonna say? Yeah, it boils down to truth. Whether you know that absolute truth exists.
And where do we get that from?
From God.
Exactly.
And God says that He promises to give us wisdom, knowledge of the truth, and He gives that through the Holy Spirit. That's according to Scripture. Scripture's true. God is true. God has to be true, because if He's false, then He's not God. The ontological premise and all that philosophy stuff. Basically, God has to exist because there can be no other explanation for it.
Right. So what annoys me is when people say, I was where you were until I took it all back to zero. Well, guess what? Where you are now, I was in the 80s. So you're a little behind. Totally anti-God. Everything he says, I said in the 80s. How do you know that? That's written by man. These are things I said. Now, how do you know? These are things I said. Everything he was saying, I said in the 80s. Until there was the reckoning.
And that's how you know God's true, because God does change hearts and makes you a new man. The only way to prove that God exists and Jesus was who He said He was is in the fruit of someone who has been changed. Talking to you, Neil, is fruit that God is real and that Jesus is who He says He was. I can't imagine talking to mobster, heroin addict, prick.
No, you would not have want to seen that guy.
No, I wouldn't. And your stories are they tickle me. I get giddy when someone who I can see by their fruit. I mean, you're still rough on the edges, dude. Don't get me wrong. But who can communicate?
No. That's just me. My wife claims there's got to be change. I said there is a lot of change. You just did not know me back then. Because I'll take you to a pub right now, and they won't recognize who I am.
Oh, I know. And that's proof of God. That's proof of concept that what Jesus said is true. You are a new man. You're a new creation. You are saved by grace. You are nothing without God and without his grace.
Yeah, Harp don't accept those testimonies. He said, I don't give a shit about your testimonies. Well, I can't help you then. This is my proof. So you're asking me for proof. I'm giving you proof. You won't accept it. So what can I tell you?
No, and he's hard-hearted. Like I said, it tickles me to hear your stories and realize that the man you were is dead, is gone, and that there's only one reason that could happen. You can't do it on your own. No one can, which is another true thing that is said in the Bible by Jesus and the prophets and the apostles throughout Scripture. You can't do it on your own. And God provided a way to redeem us all. And there's only one proof that is true. And it's in the witness of a change of heart and mind and a healing. Not all healing is, obvious. And there is I don't know. It boggles my mind that someone can be so hard-hearted that they just are as angry and as Harp. God bless him. Don't hate him, but he's insufferable sometimes. I like Pearl's line of how insufferable people can be. I like that word.
Paula has a good line too. She's like, listen, just because you come across new information, it doesn't negate the old information. But you come across new information that supersedes, you got to show me how that supersedes and trumps the other information that you've had your whole life. If it can. When you start going through that new information that you supposedly got, it won't be long before you see this ain't nothing new. And it wasn't before the Word of God.
Well, the ironic part is, Harp was the one who said yesterday that no amount of evidence I show you is going to make you believe that all sports is fixed. And then he went on to ask about whether Jesus existed or not. So again, that same thing applies. No amount of evidence that you give to Harp is going to make him actually have faith.
Well, see, that's the thing. I wasn't saying that. What I was saying was it's not scripted. You can't show me evidence that the entire season and the Super Bowl winner is already picked before. Now, I could show you instances where people been jailed. Yeah, you could buy people. Nobody's, people sell out for money. But as far as fixing a whole thing like it's wrestling, no, you show me proof of that. No, nobody can.
Yeah, I get it, Neil. We heard hours of it yesterday. And I will tell you how it sounds to me. So, we here, the other Indians, not the American Indians, but my Indians, uh, have this tournament of cricket, which is called IPL, Indian Premier League. But it is cricket, and there is a lot of praise in India about all the teams from different cities. And if I start talking about that, it will all sound Greek to you. So I'm not going to do that, but that's how you sounded to me yesterday while talking about NFL and AFL. And I have no clue what you are talking about. Anyways, there is this friend of mine, another flat earther, and also looking into many other things. So he keeps telling me that the whole IPL thing, this cricket league, is fixed. The only difference is that I, like Neil, do not watch actually the IPL. I'm not interested. And I do not put an affront to that person. No, I don't believe you until you give me some proof. I just hear it from one ear and make it go out from the other ear. So that is the only difference. But yes, I got similarities. And maybe I also think like Neil that some games may be scripted and maybe 50% of it or a good percentage of it is fixed. I can understand, but everything, every action, that is a little too much to believe. And my life does not have any bearing on all these stuff. So I do not even bother. I don't waste my time watching these leagues. And I don't have to worry about whether they are fixed or not.
Well, here's the thing that I'm in fear of, and this is what's like. This makes flat earthers look bad. They throw everything out with the baby out with the bathwater. Everything is no good. Everything's a lie. Everybody's lying, and that's where I have a problem.
I was just wondering that the Crown used various tactics to divide and conquer, and obviously they used the religion card here in India, the Hindu-Muslim divide, because of which Pakistan was born, and today we have Bangladesh also, which is a Muslim majority country, and the part of Bengal, Bangla, which stayed in India, is called West Bengal. Right. And I am a Bengali. My mother tongue is Bengali. So I share the same language as Bangladeshis. But some of them who were mostly Hindus stayed back in India. And the ones who were Muslims but spoke the same language went to Bangladesh. And Bangladesh became another country later on. Earlier it was Pakistan. It was East Pakistan. In 1970s, it became Bangladesh. So anyways, have you ever heard of James Prinsep? This is kind of general knowledge, but he was a British person. James Prinsep. Okay, no, maybe. So we have his name given to one of the ghats of Ganga, the Ganges in British. The Ganga River in Kolkata, which is the local pronunciation of it, the Bangla pronunciation of it, and now it is called Kolkata. But what Britishers used to call Calcutta. So I have been to Calcutta. I have spent a lot of time over there. And why? Kolkata is the part of Bengal. And that is my mother tongue. And there is a team from Kolkata as well, which is from Bengal. But I know None of you know anything about it, but there's a lot of hullabaloo here in India. And because one team won after 15 years, which has Virat Kohli, the best cricketer in the world, India also being the best cricket country in the world. So we have this whole thing here. And after one team won, we had a huge gathering in Bengaluru in India. And many people got killed in a stampede in that crowd. So this kind of craze people have. Acha, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that I talked about James Princess regarding your conversation with Surf Daddy related to civilization and nation. So James Princess was the one who studied all the ancient engravings and told Indians about a great king who used to live more than 2000 years ago, Ashoka, and he was a Buddhist. And many, many temples here in India are primarily Buddhists, right? And James Spencer was the one who came and decoded everything. He also has a very good story that he originally wanted to become an architect in Britain, but moved to India and then went on to do some amazing stuff, uncovering the real history of India, which Indians themselves were not able to preserve. But anyways, the word nation shares its root etymologically with other words like native and natal, everything to do with birth. So I don't think today the word nation applies to many countries because it's not really about being born in a place or being born in a certain family of descendants. But yeah, nation means your birthplace, basically. We have other words like natal, neonatal, postnatal, prenatal. So natal means related to childbirth, right? So that was interesting. But yeah, as far as nation, I don't know which nation can we really call a nation today in today's world, where everything is becoming more and more globalized, so much so that it is becoming a problem in many countries.
It seemed by the definition I was reading that a nation or a nation state is essentially a legal entity that has established boundaries, and that a civilization, by comparison, is something that is bound by common religion, common values, common history, and stuff like that. Now, obviously, those two can be kind of melded together, but one is more of a legal description, and civilization is more of just what it is. Then, but I don't know. I'm trying to remember if it's the nation of Israel or the people of Israel in Scripture that it's referred to, and if Israel is a quote unquote nation, that to me fits more with what a civilization is. They didn't have borders and a common legal system other than the legal system, the laws of God. They weren't governed by man. God instituted governments because we're not able to live under God's laws because we're wicked people. Anyhow, I got to get ready to do an errand, and I'll be listening in, but I probably won't be able to talk for a bit while I'm on my Bluetooth.
Have a blessed one.
I'll still be here, Wazowski. I'll always still be listening.
And forward.
Good grief. I just walked out the door and it is like a wall of hot, sticky air. A wall of heat. Ugh. Yeah. It would only rain a little bit.
Absolutely, I agree.
What do you agree with?
The sentiment of the current discussion, Neil, obviously. And who wouldn't?
What is the current discussion?
About flat Earth and stuff.
Yeah, I think it was about everything but flat Earth. But everything does happen on flat Earth. So I guess it's the flat Earth topic.
Absolutely.
Did you post that video with the oxygen yesterday?
Me, yeah.
So how can you scientifically, I mean, is what that guy doing, was that an experiment?
No.
Because he did observe the ionization of metal, right?
Yeah, but that he's not trying to figure out the cause of rust, is he?
No. That's something that happens. So how do you even scientifically prove that? This is something I had a problem with.
Not about scientifically proving it. It's just removing the oxygen from the air and measuring the displacement of the water when he removes it. I mean, it was fairly. I thought it was as basic as you could get.
Yeah, but it's proven that at the end he says there's 21% oxygen. So he's through that little demonstration. Does that prove that there's 21% oxygen in all of the air?
And that's what his demonstration's demonstrating. You don't have to accept it.
All right. There was a couple other ones I looked at too, similar to that. So I don't know. But these are just names we put on these things, right? It's not like they discovered oxygen. That's a name they put on the air that we breathe, right?
Yes.
Have you been watching Peter and Pete of late? Be honest.
No, I think Hoff's been watching him. So I think when they say they had to take everything back to zero, what they mean is They just watch a bunch of YouTube videos. And if you run across these videos of somebody saying you're not even breathing oxygen, then that's, hey, that's true.
So what does this have to do with science or geometry?
Well, as basic as a measurement is proof, right? You can't deny the measurement. So what I guess Harp is saying that you need to be able to do that with everything. You need to go back to throw everything out, and only what you could validate is what stands true. So fish, they're not living in the water's not sustaining them. They're not breathing in oxygen from the water. It's energy that's keeping them alive.
Whenever I've had fish, I didn't bother with an air stone. I just chucked a battery in the tank.
Well, my fish are feeders, so they're going to die anyway. Feed them to my turtles. But it's been 10 days, and there's still fish in there. Now, I have a turtle, too. I have a little turtle in that same bucket. But he comes up for air. Or whatever you want to call it that we're breathing. God forbid it's air. Whatever they're doing. Right? Those fish are still alive, and there's no movement on the water. So there's no energy. I think he was saying that the current moves the water, and it's the energy that's keeping the fish alive.
Well, that's so stupid. It almost.
Yeah, we really needed you here yesterday. He's claiming that you can't prove that there's 21% oxygen in the air. We're not breathing oxygen. It was freaking.
Yeah, we are.
Then how come when you light a match, right? There's no ignition in the air.
Because the saturation rate isn't high enough for the air to become combustible. You can, if you take an oxygen tank and open it up in
Well,
a
that's
room.
what I said. You're talking about a small scale. I said you can't expect scale of Earth to light a match and that the oxygen is going to go on fire.
Right, and you have to have so many parts per million before it becomes flammable, and so his proof that it's not oxygen we're breathing is the world hasn't exploded.
That's one of them that how come if you light a match, it doesn't, oxygen is supposed to be combustible. He also said that you need a prescription for oxygen. And what else was the other one? The other one was when they put when they test you for your breathing level, they're not, they're actually testing your pressure. So it has nothing to do with, your breathing.
So the amount of air you take in will show in the pressure you apply when you push the air out.
Yep.
And from the amount of oxygen that's present in the air, we know how much. Well, who was claiming this?
I'll give you a wild guess. Starts with H, ends with P. He was claiming all football games are fixed, that everything's scripted. But that's how it started. I'm telling him there's no way NFL is scripted. Yeah, you could buy a few players and they can fix some things, but to tell me that they know who's winning the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year, you have to prove that to me. There's no proof of that. And it led down the road from that. Like, I've known professional football players. I mean, if anything looked fixed, it was that game with the Jets and the freaking Dolphins in the 80s, the Mud Bowl. Spoke to Mark Gastineau about that.
Look here, man. It's a lot. I mean, you talk about this proof crap. It's a lot better just to make a baseless assertion and then act like people are dumb if they don't accept it.
The aliens controlling the football results. Everybody knows that, you bunch of dumbasses. Don't you understand?
Well, that's the road Hop takes. And then it got into Christianity. As he couldn't prove the NFL was scripted, he started demanding that I prove Jesus existed.
Well, I mean, he ain't going to accept anything but empirical, which is a category error. You know, like, so there's no making him happy.
Yeah, everything is thrown out. Since certain people, when they come to Flat Earth, they throw everything out. And they claim you got to start from zero. And the only thing you know is true is what you can prove and validate. Right? And if you can't, then it's not true.
Yeah, auto hoaxes. But we covered this on yesterday's show, so on that note, I'm going to round out with a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Hit me up on PayPal, Patreon, Ko-Fi, all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Millimeter, it be accurately measured. It's measured flat, direction up and down. Flat level we at, flight over ground. Descending from that breeze, heading in degrees. Horizontal, flat.